My ex dumped me for my skinny best friend because I was too fat and didn't match his life anymore. 8 months later, I found myself standing in sweatpants at their shattered wedding reception, watching his mother cry as she begged me to marry him right then and there because the venue was already paid for. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, still wearing an oversized college hoodie, when my phone rang. It was 10:17 inches the morning. A Saturday. Liam's wedding day. My plan for the day was incredibly simple. Stay inside, watch something entirely forgettable on Netflix, and feel nothing at all. I almost let it go to voicemail. But the caller ID made my stomach drop. Margaret, Liam's mother. She hadn't called me a single time in the 8 months since I had packed my bags and walked out of the apartment I shared with her son on Maplewood Drive. Maya. She breathed into the receiver, her voice shaking violently. Come to Oak Ridge Country Club right now. Don't change your clothes. Don't overthink it. Just get in your car and come. You do not want to miss this. I should have hung up. I should have poured the rest of my coffee down the drain and let whatever disaster was unfolding happen completely without me. Instead, my curiosity overrode my dignity. I grabbed my keys off the granite counter, leaving my mug half full by the sink, and walked out the door. The drive took exactly 14 minutes. I counted every single one of them. My hands gripping the leather steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my heart doing something erratic against my ribs that I didn't quite have a name for yet. To understand why I was driving to my cheating ex's wedding, you have to understand the 12 years of history that led to it. I met Chloe when I was 19, during the fall semester of my sophomore year at Penn State. She knocked on my dorm room door at 11 at night because she had locked herself out and needed to borrow a phone charger. She had a loud, bright laugh that seemed to fill the entire hallway. I had a mini fridge stocked with cheap soda. That was the entire foundation of our friendship, and somehow, it was enough for over a decade. We were always an unlikely pair. People pointed it out constantly, usually with a little condescending chuckle. Chloe was 5'9", effortlessly thin, the kind of girl who ordered a massive dessert, ate 3 bites, and genuinely forgot the rest existed. I was 5'4" and built completely differently. By the time we graduated, I had spent years hearing variations of the exact same backhanded compliment, "You have such a beautiful face." It took me a very long time to hear the silent, unspoken second half of that sentence. I met Liam through Chloe at a campus bar the spring before we graduated. He was a junior in the architecture program, tall, quiet, and possessing a brooding energy that read as deep and thoughtful until you actually got to know him. He asked for my number, not Chloe's. For a long time, that felt like the most shocking and validating thing that had ever happened to me. We started dating officially in April of 2016. I was 22. For the first few years, it was genuinely wonderful. Liam graduated, took a prestigious job at a firm in Philly, and I followed him a year later after finishing my degree in health sciences. We signed a lease together in 2020 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Chloe stayed tethered to us through all of it. She was in that apartment more than my own sister was. She helped me pick the paint color for the master bedroom, a soft shade called Winter Fog that took 3 coats to look decent. But looking back, there were moments. Tiny, insidious moments that I brushed off. Like Liam's 30th birthday dinner. His uncle gave a toast, joking about how lucky Liam was to find a girl who was so easygoing. Liam chuckled, swirling his drink, and said, "Yeah, Maya's the low-maintenance one. She never needs a production. She just absorbs whatever is happening." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, thinking it was praise. I had built my entire identity around being the chill girlfriend who never demanded too much, who never made a fuss, who took up as little space as possible. Or the time Chloe and I were dress shopping for a mutual friend. Chloe held a sleek, form-fitting mermaid gown against my body in the mirror, tilted her head, and said sweetly, "You know, you'd look absolutely stunning in this if you just dropped a size." She said it like she was handing me a profound gift. Then there was the trip to the Poconos for my 27th birthday. Liam planned a beautiful weekend in a cabin. On the drive home, completely out of nowhere, he mentioned that a female coworker of his had just started a new diet program and dropped 2 dress sizes in a month. "Don't you think that sounds like a fun challenge to try?" he asked, keeping his eyes on the road. I spent the rest of the drive in total silence, feeling the joy of the weekend completely rot inside my chest. By the time I turned 28, I weighed around 215 pounds. I say this plainly because you need to understand that Liam never outright called me fat. He didn't have to. He said it in the way he only ever chose restaurants with clean, light menus. He said it in the way he would side-eye my pasta before ordering a dry salad for himself, setting an example I had never asked for. He said it through 4 consecutive years of birthday and Christmas gifts that were always gym memberships, high-end workout gear. And once, a literal bathroom scale tied with a silver ribbon. Our relationship ended on a random Thursday in November. I had come home 3 hours early from my job at a physical therapy clinic because of a brutal migraine. I walked up the stairs of our apartment, dreaming of takeout and a hot shower. I pushed open the door to my own bedroom and found Liam and Chloe in my bed. Chloe was propped up against my favorite decorative pillow, looking completely at home. Liam didn't even flinch. That is the detail that still haunts me. He didn't scramble, he didn't gasp, he didn't pull the sheets up. He just looked at me with this bored, mildly irritated expression, like I was a maid interrupting his vacation. Chloe, on the other hand, panicked. She clutched the duvet to her chest and started stammering my name. Maya, oh my God, Maya. I stood in the doorway for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 seconds. Then I turned around, walked into the kitchen, and started boiling water for tea. My hands were shaking so violently I needed something to hold. Chloe scurried out of the apartment 20 minutes later, fully dressed, avoiding my eyes. "We need to talk when you're ready," she whispered as she left. I didn't say a word. An hour later, Liam sat me down in the living room. He delivered a prepared statement that sounded like a corporate layoff. "I need you to understand this isn't really about Chloe," he said calmly. "It's been building for a long time. You've just let yourself go. Maya. You don't match my life anymore. You stopped caring about how you look, about what we're building. I've been carrying this relationship by myself, and I'm exhausted." He spoke like a man describing a minor inconvenience, like bad weather. I didn't cry. I sat perfectly still, let him finish, then walked into the bedroom and started throwing my clothes into garbage bags. Update 1. The aftermath of the breakup was an education in betrayal. I moved into my older sister Jenna's guest room. Jenna has never let me get away with lying to myself. The second week I was there, she sat me down over coffee and said, "Maya, people who actually love you don't abandon you because the scale went up. They leave because they were already looking for an exit, and your body was just the most convenient excuse they could say out loud." I didn't fully believe her then, but I wrote the words down. 2 weeks after I moved out, Liam texted me about the apartment's security deposit. We had split the $3,000 deposit right down the middle when we moved in $1,500 each. The landlord returned it in full to Liam since he was keeping the lease. When I asked for my half, Liam replied, "I've already applied it toward the emotional cost of the disruption you caused by leaving so suddenly." I called him immediately. "That is my money, Liam. I didn't make a sudden decision to leave. I reacted to finding my best friend in my bed. We can agree to disagree on the sequence of events," he said smoothly. I hung up. I let him keep the $1,500. It felt like a cheap ransom to never have to negotiate with his sociopathy again. Chloe sent me paragraphs of text for weeks. "I miss you. I don't know how to exist without you. Liam and I aren't even that serious." I finally replied to her in February. "You had 12 years of friendship and traded it for a few months with him. I'm not staying friends with someone whose math works out like that." She stopped texting me after that. I started going to therapy. My therapist, Dr. Vance, changed my life with one simple question during our third session. "Maya, when exactly did you start deciding that your own needs were negotiable?" I didn't have an answer, but I spent the next 6 months finding one. I joined a gym on my own terms. I started working with a trainer named David who didn't ask me about my goals, didn't push toxic diet culture, and just helped me feel strong. By April, I had lost 45 pounds. But more importantly, I had gained a spine. I bumped into Liam's mother, Margaret, at a mutual friend's engagement party in May. She looked me up and down, her eyes widening as she took in my new figure. "Look at you," she cooed, touching my arm. "You look absolutely wonderful, Maya. Liam always said you had it in you if you just tried." I realized in that exact moment that Liam's entire family had absorbed his gaslighting narrative. To them, I was just a lazy project that had finally been fixed. I smiled tightly, walked away, and drove home. Then came June. 5 weeks before the wedding. My phone lit up with Liam's name. I answered out of sheer morbid curiosity. "I need a favor," he said, skipping any greeting. "The country club's coordinator just quit. Chloe is freaking out about the vendors. You still have the contact for that florist you used for Priya's wedding, right? The one who does the massive arches?" I literally pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. "You were calling me to ask for help planning your wedding to my former best friend?" "I'm asking for a phone number, Maya," he sighed, sounding deeply annoyed. "It's not a huge deal. I figured you'd want things to go smoothly and wouldn't want to be the bitter ex about this." "No," I said clearly. "And do not ever contact me again unless someone is dying." I hung up and blocked him. Update 2. Which brings me back to the morning of July 14th. 10:28 a.m. I pulled my car into the sprawling parking lot of Oak Ridge Country Club. It looked like the site of a natural disaster. Guests in expensive formal wear were clustered in tight, panicked groups near the valet stand. A woman in a champagne silk dress was sobbing hysterically into her phone by the decorative fountain, her expensive mascara running down her neck. I walked through the heavy double doors into the grand ballroom, wearing gray sweatpants and a faded Penn State hoodie. The room was destroyed. A massive, 10-foot floral centerpiece lay completely shattered across the pristine cream carpet, crushing hundreds of white peonies into a puddle of spilled champagne. Smashed crystal flutes glittered dangerously near the floor-to-ceiling windows. Up at the front, a string quartet sat frozen in their chairs, holding their cellos and violins, looking terrified to make a sound. Margaret spotted me immediately. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, but her eyes were wild and bloodshot. She practically sprinted over and grabbed both of my hands, her manicured nails digging into my skin. "Thank God you came," she choked out. "Margaret, what on earth is happening?" I asked, looking at the 150 stranded guests whispering in the corners. "Come with me," she demanded, pulling me toward a private bridal lounge in the back hallway. She slammed the door behind us, locked it, and shoved her cell phone into my hands. "Read this." It was a massive thread of text messages. Screenshots that someone had airdropped to Margaret's phone. The contact name at the top was Times Julian. Julian, it turned out, was Chloe's personal trainer at her boutique gym. The messages dated all the way back to March. They were graphic, deeply romantic, and undeniable. There were hotel receipts. There were texts from Chloe saying, "I know I'm getting married in 3 months, but I don't feel alive with anyone except you." There was a text from Julian begging her to call off the wedding, and Chloe responding, "I will leave him after the wedding, I promise. I just don't want to lose the $22,000 venue deposit." I handed the phone back, my brain struggling to process the sheer magnitude of the karma unfolding in front of me. "She was going to marry Liam anyway," I whispered. "She was," Margaret sobbed, wiping her face. "Until Julian's wife got tired of waiting. A woman named Elena. She tracked Julian's location this morning. She walked right into the bridal suite an hour ago, wearing a yellow raincoat, holding her phone up with all the receipts." Margaret pressed a hand to her temple, looking physically ill. "Elena didn't even yell. She just looked at Chloe and her dress and asked if the gown cost more than her marriage did. Chloe's mother tried to push Elena out, and they knocked over the main floral arrangement. Elena just laughed, walked out into the main lobby, and read the text messages out loud to half the bridal party, with dates, loud enough for the string quartet to hear. "Where is Chloe?" I asked, feeling a hysterical laugh bubbling up in my throat. "Gone," Margaret spat. "She ran out the back door in an $8,000 dress, got in her car, and drove off. Nobody can reach her. One of her bridesmaids just told me Chloe has been calling my son a placeholder for months." I stood in the quiet bridal suite, surrounded by garment bags, and felt a profound, overwhelming sense of peace. 12 years of friendship, and Chloe had done to Liam exactly what they had both done to me, only infinitely worse. She had let 150 people fly in. She let caterers prep food. She let her mother sew alterations. All while keeping her exits wide open. Margaret grabbed my hands again, squeezing harder this time. "Maya. Listen to me. I know this is insane. But everyone is already here." I blinked at her. "What?" "The flowers are paid for. The food is paid for. The officiant is standing in the hallway. He said he can do a quick, simple civil ceremony. Liam is devastated. You are here. You both have history. We could just do something small today. Nobody would think it's weird. You can save this." The silence in the room was so heavy it felt suffocating. I stared at this wealthy, desperate woman, finally fully comprehending the utter delusion of this family. I started laughing. I couldn't stop. It wasn't a polite laugh. It was a deep, chest-rattling laugh of pure disbelief. "You called me here," I said slowly, savoring every single syllable, "to ask me to marry your son at his own cancelled wedding, 6 hours after his fiancée ran away in her dress, to save you a deposit? Maya. Please. Don't let your pride ruin." "He sat me down 8 months ago," I cut her off, my voice turning to ice. "He told me I didn't match his life anymore. Those were his exact words. Today is just the rest of the world finally catching up to the reality of who your son actually is." I turned and unlocked the door, walking right back out into the ruined ballroom. Margaret followed me, frantic. "Maya, wait. We can just do a quiet ceremony. The officiant is flexible," she pleaded, her voice echoing over the shattered glass. Several guests turned to stare. Liam's father, Arthur, was standing near the bar, nursing a glass of scotch. He heard his wife begging me. A look of profound shame washed over his face. He set his glass down, walked over, and grabbed Margaret's arm. "Margaret. That is enough," Arthur said, his voice dangerously low. "There is nothing left to salvage today. Let the poor woman go home." He looked at me, his eyes full of genuine regret. "I am so sorry you were dragged into this, Maya. You never deserved any of this. Not then, and not today." It was the first time anyone in that family had spoken to me without an agenda. I nodded at him, turned on my heel, and walked out the front doors of the Oak Ridge Country Club. I didn't look back once. I drove home, made myself a fresh cup of tea, and finally remembered how to breathe. At 7:45 that night, there were 3 aggressive knocks on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. It was Liam. His younger sister, Sarah, was standing a few feet behind him, arms crossed, looking completely over it. I opened the door. Liam looked like a ghost. His dress shirt was heavily wrinkled, his tie was gone, and his eyes were hollow. He looked at me like he was expecting me to hug him. "Maya," he croaked. I leaned against the doorframe. "Make it fast, Liam." He swallowed hard. "There's something about today you don't know." When I found out about Chloe and the trainer, I wasn't as completely blindsided as everyone thinks. I raised an eyebrow. Sarah rolled her eyes behind him. "I've been talking to a woman at my firm," Liam blurted out. "Nothing physical. Just texting. For a few months, I was trying to figure out a way to call off the wedding without looking like the bad guy who left 2 women in a row. When Chloe's scandal blew up today, it honestly just solved the problem for me. I didn't have to be the villain." He looked at me, expecting some kind of absolution. "I know how that sounds, Maya. But I wanted to be honest with you." "It sounds," I said evenly, "exactly like what you did to me 8 months ago. You found the exit before you had to be the one holding the door. You just moved to whatever option requires the absolute least amount of emotional effort from you." "I came here because I owed you the truth," he argued, his voice cracking. "No, you came here because I am the last person on earth who used to make you feel like you were a good, reasonable man. I'm not going to play that role for you anymore, Liam." Behind him, Sarah let out a harsh bark of a laugh. "God, you really are a coward, Liam," she muttered. "You told me I didn't match your life," I said, looking Liam dead in the eyes. "You were completely right. I don't. And it is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me." I gently closed the door in his face. I didn't slam it. I just shut it, locked the deadbolt, and walked away. The financial fallout of the wedding was catastrophic, and I heard all about it from Sarah, who took me out for coffee the next week to apologize for her family's insanity. The venue kept the $22,000. The caterer refused to refund the $9,000 for the food. The photographer invoiced them for $1,500. Liam and Chloe spent a month legally threatening each other over who owed what. At a family dinner, Sarah finally publicly shamed Liam into wiring me the $1,500 security deposit he had stolen from me. I used it to buy a squat rack for my apartment. It's been a year now. I work as a personal trainer at the gym where I healed myself. I help women who have spent their entire lives making themselves smaller for mediocre men realize that their needs are not negotiable. I painted my new bedroom winter fog. I never spoke to Liam or Chloe again. I don't need to. I didn't get the cinematic revenge of destroying their lives myself. They did it entirely on their own. I just got to stand in the ashes, completely unbothered, and finally walk away clean. I refused to be the family's default babysitter when they planned a vacation for Mom's 60th birthday without even asking for my opinion. I, 27 female, have spent the last 5 years advancing my career as a manager at Preston Technologies, one of Austin's fastest growing tech businesses. While my younger sisters were beginning children, I focused on moving up the business ladder. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy my job and the route I've chosen. But sometimes I worry whether I missed something along the road. No husband, no children. It's just me in my corner office, overlooking downtown Austin. It was a normal Tuesday morning when my phone rang. Lauren, 25F, appeared on the screen, and I responded while sorting through quarterly performance assessments on my desk. "Hey Ash, have you got a minute?" Lauren asked across the speaker. My youngest sister has always been the bubbly one. "Sure, what's up?" I pushed some papers aside, half listening while reviewing the figures. "So, you know Mom is turning 60 in 2 months, right?" She paused for emphasis. "Well, we're planning something special, and we need everyone to chip in." That caught my interest. "Okay, how much are we talking about?" Lauren named the figure, and I almost choked on my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last holiday. Which, to think of it, was 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," Lauren quickly added. "But it's for Mom, you know?" No, it's fine," I replied, already opening my banking app. "I'll transfer it right now." "Great. Oh, and one other thing, make sure you take a week off work to celebrate. Don't schedule anything else during that period, okay?" The next few weeks passed in a whirl of meetings and deadlines. I periodically wondered what my sisters were planning with all that money. But anytime I inquired, they would dismiss me with ambiguous answers. Finally, work took over. Mom's birthday slipped into the back of my thoughts. Then came Saturday dinner. We all gathered at our parents' home. Mom and Dad, my sisters, Aunt Susan and her children Nathan and Daniel, my cousins, are with their families. The familiar pandemonium of a family supper surrounded us. Dad tells the same old jokes about Texas football. Mom is fretting about everyone's plates. The typical stuff. Lauren then dropped her bomb. "So," she continued, pushing her grilled asparagus about her plate with studied casualness, "we have finally organized everything for Mom's birthday. We're going to spend a week at Mountain Pine Resort in Colorado." The table erupted with enthusiastic discussion. Mom was beaming. Dad was already discussing visiting the slopes. And my sisters were talking about which ski lines they wanted to attempt. Why didn't anyone tell me earlier? I said, feeling excluded. I don't even have a ski suit, and there's barely any time to get one now. The table became too silent. Mother cleared her throat. And my stomach dropped before she opened her mouth. Actually, honey, she began with that tone she used to ask for a favor she knew I couldn't refuse. We were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and watch the kids while we're there. I looked at my family gathering around the dinner table, waiting for someone to chuckle. To say that all was a joke. But the stillness went on. Broken only by the faint clink of cutlery upon plates. You want me to watch the kids? I finally asked. All 5 of them? My mind began counting them off mechanically. Lauren's toddler, Noah. Isabel's baby child, Lily. Lucas and Anna are twins born to cousin Nathan. And Daniel's kid, Leo. 5 children under the age of 7. Well, you're so good with them, Mom exclaimed, as if it explained everything. They love their Aunt Ashley. I looked around the table again. I'm still hoping to see some comedy in someone's eyes. There was none. Just eager looks, waiting for my standard yes. But that's not fair, I caught myself saying. My voice sounded unusual to my own ears. I want to celebrate with everyone too, it's Mom's birthday. My middle sister, Isabella, 23F, sighed as she put down her fork. Come on, Ashley, you will be bored there anyway. It'll be noisy and crowded. Bored? I said again. How would you know if I'd be bored? Well, she said, exchanging eyes with Lauren. You're wonderful with the kids. They adore you. And let's be honest, you don't need a break from family life. I felt my chest tightening. What's that supposed to mean? Lauren jumped in. Her voice carried the condescending tone she had honed over the years. She just means that you do not have children or a husband to escape from, like the rest of us do. We need a break. You understand, right? The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked away tears. I would not give them the gratification of watching me cry. Instead, I silently pushed back my chair and stood. Ashley. Mom's voice sounded concerned, but not enough to make me stop. Without saying anything, I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed for the door. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody yelled out. The only thing I heard was Mom's voice floating from the dining room. Don't worry, she'll be a little offended at first, but she'll come around, she always does. As I proceeded towards my car, their voices faded behind me, already talking about ski slopes and winter gear. The evening air felt crisp against my face, helping to cleanse my mind. 10 years. 10 years of putting others first. Of being the accountable party. The reliable one. And this is what I received in return. The worst aspect wasn't the babysitting request. It was the casualness with which they believed I would agree. The way they organized this entire event without me. Using my money. My time, my vacation days. Without even asking. As if I were simply a resource to be utilized. Not one member of the family will be included. I spent half a night pacing around my downtown flat. Replaying every family meal, every holiday, every time I put aside my own needs to assist another person. The memories came flooding back. Each is taking on a new, darker meaning in light of tonight's events. At 16, I was cooking dinner as Mom helped Isabella with her homework. At 18, I turned down a spring break trip with friends to watch Lauren while our parents went on a weekend excursion. At 21, Isabella worked 2 jobs in college to help pay for her prom dress. Images kept coming, every year, sacrifice after sacrifice. Ashley, can you watch Noah for a few hours? Lauren's voice echoed in my mind. I really need a break. Ashley, would you mind taking the twins for the weekend? Nathan's familiar request came back like a broken record. Sophia's overwhelmed, and you're so good with kids. I had always answered yes. Always. Even though I had critical meetings the following day. Even though I was fatigued from my own work week. I took pride in being the reliable one, the responsible sister, the perfect daughter. I sank on my couch, the leather cool against my skin. The photo albums on my coffee table drew my attention. On family vacations, I was always the one behind the camera. Holiday celebrations in which I was constantly in the kitchen, everyone else laughed in the living room. When was the last time somebody asked me what I wanted? It's not like you need a break from family life. Lauren's words kept replaying in my mind. As if my life, job, and decisions were somehow less valid, because I was not married with children, as if all of my sacrifices meant nothing. Because they did not suit their idea of what was important. Sleep did not come easily that night. I tossed and turned, remembering how I'd worked through college with a scholarship, I was determined not to bother my parents financially. How I started my job right after graduation, helping to put both of my sisters through school. All those late evenings at work climbing the corporate ladder, sending a portion of my paycheck home to help with family expenditures. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I wasn't a confrontational person and never had been. There had to be a way to settle this quietly. To make them comprehend without generating family strife. So I did what I had always done when there was a problem. I attempted to solve it. I waited till an acceptable hour on Sunday morning to pick up my phone. Mom responded on the third ring. "Hi, Mom," I responded, my voice firm. I had been thinking about the resort trip. I actually have a solution. I will pay for a professional babysitter for all 5 children. That way, everyone may enjoy the festivities together. The silence on the other end of the telephone lasted a little too long. "That won't work, Ashley," Mom eventually stated, her voice tense. "We can't trust a stranger with our children. They are used to you." "Mom, I want to be a part of the celebration as well," I explained. "I want to be there for your birthday. I could find a great babysitter, one with excellent references." "You're not exactly a social butterfly," she interrupted me, her tone stern. "You'd probably feel uneasy with all the noise and commotion regardless. The kids will keep you occupied, and you'll enjoy spending time with them. It's ideal for everyone." Before I could react, I heard the click of the call ending. I sat there, phone still pressed against my ear. My mother's comments sank in. She had not even bothered to say goodbye. And then I realized. This was more than just a birthday excursion. It was about years of taking me for granted. Years spent expecting I'd always be available. Always answer yes. Always prioritize everyone else's needs before my own. Perhaps it was time to prove them incorrect. Update 1. I was still staring at my phone, pondering my mother's sudden hang-up. Then it buzzed again. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. "How dare you," she snarled, before I could say hello. "Mom just told me about your small proposal. Considering hiring a babysitter. Are you attempting to wreck everything? Ruin everything?" I sat up taller, surprised by her harsh tone. "Why, I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone." "We've already got a solution." Lauren's voice soared. "Everything is planned, Ashley. Everything. And now you're being totally selfish, trying to change all of our plans at the last minute." The accusation struck me like a slap. Am I being selfish? Yes, you are. We had been planning this for weeks. Everyone is excited. The resort is rented, and the activities are planned. And now you want to throw a wrench in everything because you can't simply do one thing for your family? "One thing," I began, but she interrupted me again. "What if you wreck this trip for everyone? If you spoil Mom's birthday party, don't talk to me again, Ashley. I mean it." The call went dead. I sat astonished by my baby sister's threat. Then my phone rang again, this time with incoming texts from Isabella. My hands were shaking. "Family needs to stick together," her first text stated. "Everyone helps each other out. Remember how I covered your work event last year while you were sick? The kids adore you. Why can't you just stop being resentful and focus on what is best for the family?" My fingers rushed across the keyboard as I responded. A real family does not take advantage of one another. A real family respects each other's wishes and incorporates everyone into their activities. A real family does not manipulate or guilt trip each other. I saw the 3 dots emerge and disappear multiple times. However, no response came. That's when something inside of me changed. Something clicked in place. They requested for money without clarifying what it was for. They carefully instructed me to take time off work without mentioning the resort. They casually mentioned their plans at dinner, as if everything were already set in stone. They had planned this all along. While I worked late nights, while I was babysitting their children, while I was being the ideal daughter and sister, they were quietly planning this vacation. They used my money, set up my schedule, and planned to dump 5 children on me. Not a single word was spoken. And now that I was not following their script, they tried every manipulation strategy they could think of. Guilt, threats, emotional blackmail. All to force me back into the box they'd made for me. Something peculiar happens when you finally see through the haze of manipulation. Suddenly, everything is crystal clear. I felt lighter than I have in years. The shame that had been dragging me down was replaced by something else, determination. I opened my laptop and began searching. Within an hour, I'd reserved a beachside hotel in Florida. Not too fancy, but it had a balcony that overlooked the ocean. And was within walking distance of anything I might require. I even purchased a first-class aircraft ticket. I had lots of money. since I would not be skiing. The following several days at work were remarkably tranquil. My family stopped phoning and texting. They presumably believed I was at home, getting ready for a week of childcare. Consider buying additional snacks and arranging activities. This concept made me grin. I packed my beach clothing and a new swimsuit. Going on a tropical trip in the middle of winter? My coworker Janet inquired after seeing me check the Florida weather forecast. Sometimes you need to do something unexpected, I said. I was surprised at how amazing it felt to say those things aloud. The morning of my flight, I took one final look around my apartment. I'd cleaned everything scrupulously out of habit, I suppose. The refrigerator was empty, the windows were properly locked, everything is in excellent order, as always. Except for this time. I would not be available to answer any desperate phone calls for childcare. Aunt Susan's last message appeared as I was headed to the airport. The kids are really delighted to spend time with their favorite aunt. Do not disappoint them. I felt a sense of remorse. But then I recalled, they all sat there during dinner, smiling and nodding, while basically excluding me from my own mother's birthday party. The guilt subsided. Nathan provided a thorough calendar of the twins' medication schedules and allergies. Sophia responded with a list of their favorite eats and activities. Daniel reminded me that Leo requires a particular blanket for naps. Everyone assumed I was going along with their plan, despite my obvious resistance. As I waited at my gate, more texts came in. We're counting on you, Ashley. The kids are already packed. Don't forget Noah needs his stuffed dinosaur for bedtime. I've left detailed instructions about Lily's feeding schedule. I shut off my phone and put it in my bag. No social media, no email. There's no family turmoil. Just me, the beach, and a full week of freedom. Looking out the plane window as we took off, I thought of the turmoil that will emerge tomorrow morning. When they showed up to my empty flat, part of me felt horrible for the children. They were completely innocent throughout this. But, perhaps it was time for their parents to step up and become actual parents, rather than depending on their convenient single sister as the default babysitter. For the first time in my adult years, I was choosing myself. And surprisingly, it felt right. As the plane rose higher, Austin slipped behind the clouds. And with that, the weight of everybody's expectations. I was finally free. Update 2. When I stepped out of the airport, the Florida air welcomed me with open arms. The palm trees swung with the air. Even from there, I could smell the salt of the ocean. My hotel suite was even nicer than the photographs. The balcony provided an excellent view of the limitless blue horizon. And I could hear the waves smashing on the shore. The first afternoon, I strolled barefoot on the beach, allowing the warm sand to squish between my toes. When was the last time I had done something like this? When was the last time I did something simply for myself? I swam in the hotel pool. Read a book without interruptions. We ate dinner at a small seashore restaurant. Nobody needed me to cut their food or clean up messes. I watched the sunset from my balcony, sipping a glass of wine, without a single care for nighttime or morning schedules. My final morning in Florida, I relished my last minutes of tranquility. I knew I'd have to switch my phone back on eventually, face the chaos I had left behind. But I wasn't expecting what I found. When my phone eventually started up, it started buzzing nonstop. Messages. Voicemails. I missed calls. There are hundreds of them. The timestamps showed they started exactly 1 week ago, early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I began to browse through them. The first messages came from Lauren. Where are you? We're outside your house. Then Emma. Ashley, open the door. The kids are getting restless? Nathan. Hey, we brought Lucas and Anna like planned. Are you home? Daniel. Ashley, what's going on? Leo's asking for his aunt. As I read through the messages, I could see the scene perfectly. My sisters and cousins stand outside my empty house, with 5 confused kids. Their suitcases are packed for the resort. Their meticulously crafted plans are crashing around them. The tone of the communications altered rapidly, from bewilderment to panic. Ashley, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this. Then rage set in. Lauren's messages became nasty. You selfish witch? How could you do this to us? Isabella wasn't doing any better. I can't believe you're so immature. You ruined Mom's birthday. Aunt Susan's messages caused me to cringe. I had never seen her use that type of language before. Mom's messages began later in the day. I'm very disappointed in you, Ashley. I never thought you'd be so selfish after everything we've done for you. Dad, who rarely texted, sent only one message. Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself. The voicemails were terrible. I could hear the rage, disappointment, and accusations in their voices. Messages from extended family members I had not spoken with in months suddenly appeared. All of them condemned my actions. You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children. You've ruined everything. I sat in my calm hotel room, reading message after message, finding out what my relatives thought of me. I eventually quit being their handy solution. The words they used. They nicknamed me by these names. They made assumptions about my character. It was like meeting a completely new family, one who has been hiding behind artificial grins, and casually asks for favors. Without addressing any of them, I packed my bags and went to the airport. It was time to head home. But I wasn't the same Ashley who had gone a week before. Ashley might have apologized. You might have felt guilty. Perhaps they sought to make amends to everyone. But Ashley was gone. I had just finished unpacking my beach clothing. I heard a violent beating on my front door. Before I ever got to it, I heard a key spinning in the lock. I gave my mother an emergency key years ago, just in case. They rushed in like an angry storm. Mom leads the charge. Lauren and Isabella are surrounding her flanks. All of them had red faces and furious eyes. The serene mood I had developed in Florida vanished abruptly. Update 3. Do you have any idea what you've done? Lauren yelled and stepped forward. You ruined everything. Everything. I stood my ground. Watching them unleash their rage in my living room, the identical living room where I babysat their children on numerous occasions, I had canceled my own plans to accommodate their crises. Where I had always been the dependable one. Nathan and Daniel refused to stay with the kids, Isabella spit out, referring to their spouses. They both suddenly had important business to take care of. So Lauren had to stay home with all 5 children while we went to the resort. She missed Mom's birthday because of you. The whole trip was ruined, Mom exclaimed, her voice rising. No one could enjoy themselves. All we did was discuss how you betrayed us. How did you let everyone down? Your father couldn't even ski correctly, he was so upset. They continued their tirade. Speaking over one another, each seeking to outperform the others. They expressed their disappointment and indignation. The longer they talked, the more ludicrous everything seemed. Until something within me broke. But not in the way they had expected. I began laughing. My chuckle sliced right through their charges. They halted in the middle of a sentence. They looked at me as if I had lost my mind. What's so funny? Mom demanded, her cheeks growing crimson. What could possibly be funny about this situation? I brushed away tears of laughter from my eyes. Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now? Absurd? Isabella exclaimed. You secretly planned this entire trip, I interjected, my laughing decreasing but my voice remaining calm. You opted to watch your children without asking me. You grabbed my money and told me to take time off work. And then just thought I'd go along with your intentions. Now that everything has fallen apart due to your assumptions, you're here calling me a villain. But you've always helped before, Mom remarked, her voice smaller and perplexed. You've never said no. And that's exactly the problem, I interjected. Because I constantly assisted, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or sister and instead saw me as free childcare. You stopped thinking about my feelings, plans, and life. That's not true, Lauren argued, but her voice was unsure. Really? I asked, raising an eyebrow. So, why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask whether I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you imagine I would be content to stay behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated? I observed their expressions, trying to see any awareness or understanding of how they treated me. Instead, I noticed their expressions hardening. You're being selfish, Mom replied, her tone icy. You wrecked my birthday and damaged your sisters. You have disappointed the children. This is not how I raised you. No, Mom. You're the ones being selfish. This entire situation is your fault, not mine. Mom drew herself up to full height, her visage stone-like. If you feel that way, perhaps I no longer have a daughter named Ashley. If that's what you want, Mom, I responded gently. Then so be it. It had been 6 weeks since the final encounter in my living room. 6 weeks of silence. Broken only by the occasional post in which one of my family members makes another barely disguised statement on social media. Some people only think about themselves, Mom wrote last week. It was followed by a dozen sympathetic responses from relatives and family acquaintances who only knew her side of the tale. Family should always come first, Lauren said yesterday, with a photo of her son. So blessed to have people in my life who understand what that really means. Isabella's newest was a lengthy paragraph. Refer to toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She did not tag me, of course. Everyone knew who she was talking about. Several months ago, these posts would have destroyed me. I would have spent hours creating responses in my mind. Losing sleep because of their words. I wonder if they were correct. What about now? I just scrolled past them, sometimes with a tiny smile. Look how predictable they've become. I adjusted my regimen. Instead of spending my weekends waiting for emergency childcare calls, I have joined a neighborhood book club. The initial meeting seemed strange. Sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, I knew my phone would not ring with a desperate plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I scheduled another vacation. A journey to Europe in the spring. I didn't need to verify anyone's schedule. Alternatively, ensure that it does not interfere with the demands of others. I just spotted a decent price and took it. Occasionally, in peaceful moments, I think of my nieces and nephews. I miss them. But not in the way they were wielded against me. I hope that when they grow older, they will understand. Maybe. Perhaps they'll see the same patterns in their own lives. Make a new choice. I still have the emergency key Mom used that day. I should probably send it back. But something stops me every time I think of it. Perhaps a part of me hopes that one day, they will understand. That they'll realize how unfair their behavior and demands were. How they took advantage of my feelings for them. That kids would know that being a family does not entail sacrificing oneself to suit the needs of others. But I am no longer waiting for that day. I am not putting my life on hold. I hope for their acceptance or understanding. For the first time in my life, I am putting myself first. And it feels right. Yesterday, I removed the family group chat from my phone. I did not make an announcement or attempt to explain myself. I simply calmly withdrew myself from one more commitment. An additional cause of stress. Some may term this selfishness. My family certainly does. But I've discovered that there is a distinction between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes the healthiest thing to do is step away from folks who don't see your worth. Beyond what you can accomplish for them. As I relax in my peaceful abode, looking over travel guides for my forthcoming European journey, I've realized something. The silence that previously seemed so threatening. It now feels like liberation. The empty gaps on my calendar that used to cause me anxiety. Now it feels like there are possibilities. I'm not just the dependable aunt, the perfect daughter, or the helpful sister any longer. I am Ashley. And for the first time in my life, that seems like enough. On Thanksgiving, they voted me out of the family. I responded with a folder detailing over $78,000 in support and years of being used. Everyone cheered. I laughed gently and replied, "Then I guess you won't need this." I put a folder on the table. The moment she opened it, she screamed. "Before we carve the turkey," Natalie remarked, rising from her chair with a smug, contrived look, "there's something we need to say." Everyone became quiet. Forks stopped in midair. My stomach constricted. I recognized that tone. It was the same one Mom used to ground me at 14, for a party I didn't even attend. "We had a family vote," she explained, looking around at everyone like a pageant queen about to be crowned. "And we've decided you're not family anymore." Silence. Then there was some cheering. Cheering. My cousin Laura applauded as if she were at a concert. Uncle Mitch raised his wine glass in toast. Even my mother laughed and remarked, "Well, someone had to say it." I sat there paralyzed, staring at the plate. The stuffing had cooled, but my blood was boiling. My father did not even glance at me. He just sipped his beer and murmured, "It's probably for the best." "Wow," I murmured, carefully pushing back my chair. "You guys actually rehearsed this?" Natalie smiled wider. "You've been toxic for years. We're just finally done pretending." "You're not family," my mother explained, going for the cranberry sauce as if we were talking about the weather. "It's unanimous." I looked around. Nobody spoke up. Not a single person. "Good," I replied gently. Then I reached into my backpack. "I figured this might happen," I said, taking out a thick folder and carefully setting it in the center of the table. The sound it made, a thunk, cut through the laughs. Natalie blinked. "What is that?" I grinned and leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "Why don't you find out?" She grabbed it and ripped it open, her mouth twisted into that sarcastic little sneer she always wore when she believed she was winning. Then she turned the first page and stopped smiling. Her face became pallid. Her eyes scanned the following page. And the next. Then she shouted. I meant to yell. Like a blood-curdling, horror movie scream. Her chair smashed behind her, and she jumped upright, slamming the folder close as if it had burned her hands. You monster, she exclaimed. You messed up, twisted weirdo. Gasps resonated across the table. Joel, her husband, grabbed the folder and opened it. Then, his mouth fell. He stared at me. Is this? I nodded once. It's all real, I said. Every word. Every receipt. Every screenshot. The table became dead silence. You could hear a fork clink in the kitchen. My mother's mouth opened and closed repeatedly, like a fish struggling for oxygen. You were so sure I wouldn't fight back, I murmured, carefully getting up. So sure I'd stay the quiet one, the doormat, the cash cow. But guess what? I leaned over and stared Natalie dead in the eyes. Your little show? It's over. You want to know what was within the folder? I will get there. But first, let me explain how we got here. Natalie did not wake up one day and realize I wasn't her family. That conclusion was made over many years. Brick by brick. Comment after comment. Betrayal upon betrayal. I was never their favorite, not even close. Natalie was the star. The golden girl. Good grades. Big smile. I knew how to work a room. She could lie directly to someone's face and have them appreciate her for it. I, on the other hand, remained quiet. Private. I didn't require attention, and they despised that. They saw my quiet as weakness. I moved out at the age of 19. I paid for college myself. Worked 2 jobs. Never sought for assistance. Meanwhile, Natalie failed 2 majors. She traveled to Europe to find herself. Then she returned home and married Joel, the human equivalent of a LinkedIn profile in a blazer. What about the wedding? I paid for half. My parents couldn't afford it, but they managed to book a 2-week trip shortly after. I did not complain. I never did. Even when they joked that I was the family accountant, I continued to assist. Paying for Dad's dental surgery. I sent money when Mom claimed the heat bill was past due. Even financing a portion of my cousin Laura's tuition when she was waitlisted for a scholarship. They constantly said, "Thank you? Sure?" But with that tone. The person who said, "Well, of course you'd help. You don't have a family of your own." And perhaps it is what caused it. See, I am single. No children. No spouse. There's no drama. It's just myself, my work, and my dog. And in their minds, that meant I had nothing better to do than subsidize their disasters. Natalie treated me like I was her personal failsafe. When did Joel lose his job? She called me first. Just a small loan. When did her automobile break down? You make 6 figures? What's $2,000? When her child required therapy but her insurance didn't pay it. Yeah, guess who she called? I was always willing to help. Always. Because I persuaded myself, it was family, but helping became an obligation. Then comes expectancy. Then comes demand. It started little. Dinnertime jokes have a double meaning. Oh, you brought wine? Must be nice to afford good wine. Of course you're early. You have no kids to worry about. I wish I could work late every night and avoid my husband too. Then things grew uglier. You're so cold. Maybe that's why you're still alone. You don't understand real stress. You don't have a real life. You're just bitter that no one needs you. Except, they needed me. Constantly. Financially. Quietly. Behind closed doors. Then came the text. Natalie. Hey, can you co-sign for a small business loan? Joel and I want to start a wellness cafe. Me. No. Natalie. Wow. Really? Then came the quiet. That happened 3 months ago. Since then, I've received the cold shoulder. Mom stopped phoning. Dad sent one-word responses. Nobody invited me to the last family meal. Natalie blocked me on social media after I shared a story about shutting out harmful people. But I didn't sulk. Instead, I began retrieving receipts. Literal receipts. See, I keep records. Bank transfers. Emails. Screenshots. Dates. I am not stupid, and in the last 5 years alone, I've sent almost $78,000 to various family members. $78,000? $8,000 for Joel's rehabilitation. Natalie's emergency dental work cost $2,300 and turned out to be elective veneers. $1,500 for my father's back surgery. $12,000 for my mother's credit card debt. $6,000 for Laura's college move-in expenses. $4,500 for a family emergency, That turned out to be a trip to Cabo. And not just once. None of them offered to pay me back. They just took. And when I stopped providing, they assumed I was the problem. So, I created the folder. All transfer confirmations are included. Every email and SMS demanding funds. Natalie accused me of being deceptive in front of her friend after I declined the loan. A chronology of every large payment I've made over the previous 5 years. And, to top it all off, copies of their mocking Facebook and Instagram posts about me. I have screenshots of Natalie calling me a cash cow with no spine, in a private comment thread that she was unaware I had access to. So, yes. That is what she noticed when she opened the folder. That is what made her scream. Natalie was not only exposed, she was dismantled. Fact by fact. Line by line. Page by page. Meanwhile, the rest of the family discovered what they had done. My mother looked like she was about to faint. Joel? He gazed at the line that read, $4,200 to cover Natalie's credit card used at a hotel in Santa Monica with someone named Alyssa. And merely said, "What is this?" I didn't respond. I did not have to. Because for the first time, I was not protecting myself. I was simply showing them the truth. "You kept records?" my mother finally asked, her voice trembling. "Of everything?" I turned to her, calm as always. "You never remembered. So someone had to?" Natalie was still standing. Still pale. She clenched her hands at her sides. Her gaze darted to Joel. To me. "Go to the folder. This is a violation," she said. "You had no right to—" "No, right?" I replied, carefully rising up. "You just stood in front of this whole family and declared me not family. You all clapped. And now you're upset that I came prepared." Joel turned another page in the folder. "What's this about Santa Monica?" he questioned, his voice tense. Natalie's head snapped toward him. "Don't start." "Who's Alyssa?" he inquired. "Why were you at a hotel for 3 nights on my credit card?" Her silence was louder than any response. "Wait," my mom interrupted, bringing her palms up. "Can we all just calm down and be reasonable?" "Sure," I replied. "Let's be reasonable. Let's talk about the time you called me a parasite, while cashing the check I sent you." She blinked. "That's not fair. We were under stress." "No," I snapped. "You were stressed, and I always bailed you out. And when I say no, I suddenly become the enemy?" My father, who had been silent until now spoke up. "You're making this into something bigger than it is." I turned to face him, and my voice lowered. "You've let them do this to me for years. You knew. You saw it. You've heard it. And you let it happen because it was easier than confronting them." He did not refute it. Natalie slapped her hand into the table. "You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore." "Wrong," I replied bitterly. "I am not bitter. I'm finished." She gave a sour laugh. "You're pathetic. Do you know how dramatic this all looks? Bringing a folder? Printing screenshots? You think this makes you the victim? You're just proving you're a control freak." "And you're just proving," I said, "that you only cared about me when I was paying your bills." "You don't get to play the martyr," she yelled. "You chose to help. You didn't have to. And yet somehow," I murmured, going forward, "you expected it every single time. Until it was no longer helpful, but rather an obligation. And when I stopped, you voted me out." My voice cracked, not from grief, but from wrath. "You did not want a brother? You wanted a wallet with legs." Joel stood up, holding the packet. "Is this true?" he inquired, glancing at Natalie. "All of this?" Natalie glanced at him, and for the first time, she didn't respond. There are no phony tears. No deflection. There's just silence. "You lied to me," he stated. "About the hotel, the money, and him? You made it sound like he was insane." "I had to," she exclaimed. "He was turning everyone against me." "I wasn't," I said. "You did that all by yourself." The room became quiet again. Then my mother leaned forward and tried again. Her voice softened. "Honey, we may have overreacted, but it's still family, and families quarrel. Let's put this behind us." I shut her off. "You're not hearing me." She blinked. "What?" "I am not seeking for peace. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am telling you, I'm finished." Natalie scoffed. "Oh, stop pretending like this is some big moment. You've said that before." I looked her dead in the eye. "Not like this." I reached into my coat pocket and took out another envelope. "What now?" my father inquired, obviously fatigued. I tossed it on the table. Joel snatched it before it slid away. He opened it, read the first line. His eyes expanded. "What is this?" he murmured. I responded for him. Power of attorney documents for mom were revoked. Medical proxy, revoked. Emergency contact information has been removed. I've already signed the paperwork. I am no longer legally or emotionally liable for any of you. My mother gave a gasp. "You're cutting ties? Completely?" "Completely," I replied. "Starting now." "You're being selfish," she replied, tears welling up in her eyes. "We made mistakes, but we're still your family." I turned to face her, and my voice fell again, calm, final. "Number you're not." I grabbed my coat, took one more look at them before walking out the door. Leaving them in the midst of Thanksgiving dinner. Stunned and speechless. Surrounded with cold food and unpleasant truths. I walked out. And I did not look back. Not because it wasn't painful, it did. But when I closed the door behind me, stepped off their porch, and entered the cold night air, I felt something move within of me. For the first time in years. I could breathe. I didn't drive directly home. I pulled off the road near a lake I used to frequent as a child. Where Dad used to go me fishing. I sat there, silent. Looking out at the quiet water. And I experienced something I hadn't felt in a long time. There's nothing grabbing my attention. There is no guilt. There is no pressure. No one is waiting for a check, or a ride, or a favor. Only quietness. The next morning was silent. The following day, nothing happened. But on the third day the texts began. First, my mother. A missed call. Then another. Then a voicemail. "You really mean it? We were angry, but we're still your family." I did not respond. Natalie then sent text messages. "You don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy? Something is really wrong with you." Then my father. "You went too far. We all said things we regret, but what you did was nuclear. Your mother is a wreck. Come fix this." I did not respond to any of them. And honestly, I expected to feel guilty. I imagined myself tossing and turning at night, wondering if I had gone too far. But instead, I slept better than I have in years. There was no more second-guessing each text. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more late-night Venmo solicitations or guilt trips posing as emergencies. For the first time in decades, I could hear myself thinking. I began waking up early. Going on runs. Making coffee slowly. I made appointments that I had put off for years. Dentist, doctor. Even a psychotherapist. Not because I was broken. But I was now free to care for myself. I rewrote my emergency contacts. I removed my parents. I changed my passwords. Froze all joint accounts they had access to. I blocked Natalie on all platforms. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about coming to a close. A week after Thanksgiving, I received a text from Laura, my cousin who clapped when they voted me out. "I didn't know you paid for my tuition. I'm sorry. I followed the crowd. You were always the one who actually helped." I didn't respond. But I reread it twice. Then another surprise. A message from Joel. I filed the papers. Everything in that folder checked out. She cheated. Lied. Manipulated. "Not just you, me too," he added. "You did the right thing. I should have left sooner. I wasn't expecting that." But it landed. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done for years. I applied for a job in a different city. Not because I'm running, but I was finally free. No more. "You should stay close to home." No more. "Who will take care of them if you leave?" I began reconnecting with friends I had not seen in years. People I'd withdrawn from since I was always preoccupied with family matters. And the wildest part? Some of them saw my message on Reddit. They contacted out simply to say, "We're proud of you." That was brave. Nobody asked for money. No one made me feel guilty. Nobody tried to spin it. Simply support. Simple, honest, clean. Somebody asked me, "Don't you regret it?" I thought for a second. Vince said, "I only regret not doing it sooner." I assumed that was it. And in a way, it was. But with individuals like them, nothing ever goes well. Especially as kids begin to feel the effects of your absence. The first several weeks following Thanksgiving were peaceful. Beautifully and frighteningly calm. No calls. There is no guilt. Just peace. Until Christmas. On December 22nd, I received a text message from my mother, just a photo. This was their living room. Dressed in stockings. A half-decorated tree. Front and center, A large empty space where they normally stack the presents. It doesn't feel the same without you, the caption read. Ellie constantly wonders why Uncle is not coming this year. I stared at it for quite a while. No apologies, no ownership, just the same manipulative tone. Look at what you've done. Take a look at who you are harming. I didn't respond. Natalie tried phoning on December 23rd. I let it ring out. She then sent a message. I realize I messed up, but you don't have to punish everyone. Please come by for Ellie. She misses you. 2 minutes later. Additionally, Mom and Dad are behind on their mortgage. I understand you don't care anymore, but the bank called today. I assumed you would want to know. There it was. The request. Always wrapped in a cloak of guilt. It was always coated with faux tenderness, but it always concluded with a request. I blocked that number. On December 24th, Dad sent another text. You made your point. We get it. But that is plenty. We need assistance. We are still your blood. That night, I sat alone by the fireplace, drinking a glass of wine. I gazed around my tiny apartment. There was no tree or noise, just me and the solitude that they said would ruin me. And for the first time in my life, I felt grateful for the silence. But it did not end there. In January, I received a call from an unfamiliar phone number. I took it up out of habit. Is it Daniel? A man's voice inquired. Yes. Who is calling? My name is Mark, he said. I am phoning on behalf of your father. He added that you are the chief executive of the family trust. I froze. I removed the job 2 months ago. I stated that it was finalized by the family attorney. My name is not on anything. The man stopped. I see. Your father stated that he was unable to contact you directly and requested that I investigate options in that situation. Of course they were. Natalie and my parents had run out of choices. The ATM was closed. The safety net was gone. They were now striving to be inventive. I hung up without saying another thing, but the last straw came in February. I received an envelope in the mail. Handwritten. There was no return address, but I immediately recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside was a 3-page letter. The first page was all about regrets. We said things in fury. You have always been the strong one. We never understood how much we relied on you. The second page addressed guilt. Your father's health is not good. Natalie is utterly alone now. We're concerned about Ellie. She's struggling. The third page was the hook. We are selling the house, but we are underwater on our mortgage. We only need a little aid to get through this. Then we won't ask again. Please, Daniel. Do it for your father. Do it for the family. I sat with the letter for a long, allowing myself to experience everything they wanted me to feel. The weight of responsibility, the pain of obligation, and the desperate need to repair what was damaged. Then I folded the letter, got up, went to the kitchen, and threw it away. The truth is that they weren't asking for assistance. They were requesting access again. They did not want me back in the family. They wanted the version of me who refused to say no. The person who paid quietly, sacrificed quietly, and suffered silently. But that version of me is no longer here. I'm no longer their scapegoat. I am not their golden goose. I'm not the duct tape that keeps a broken house together. I am finished. The most alarming element for them is that I can function without them. I received a new job and relocated to a new location with a larger space and a fresh start. I began helping on weekends, not because anyone needed me, but because I wanted to. I created a life in which no one phones me at 11 p.m., to cover up a mistake they refuse to admit, and I am not punished for being independent. Where kindness is not exploited as leverage. I don't regret aiding them, but I do regret taking so long to stop. You want to know what true tranquility feels like? It's not about being surrounded by family. It means being rid of those who only refer to you as family when they need something. Update. Months later, I doubted this post would receive attention. Honestly, I just needed to say it and put it somewhere, but I read every single remark. The individuals who said you were brave do not deserve you. Thank you. I had no idea how much I needed to hear that until I actually did. And of the few who inquired, what if they change? I've also asked myself that question. It's been several months now. They did not change. After I cut them off, after the folder, after the yelling, stillness and letters, I hoped that someone would get it. That they would reflect. That they'd say, we're sorry. They did not. They became quiet for a bit. Then they became strategic. Then they became desperate. Then they turned nasty again. But I got free. Since then, I've moved. I have a job that does not keep me up at night. I started therapy, real therapy. The kind when you stop attempting to fix everyone else and instead learn to sit with yourself. I cook for myself now. I sleep better. I go outside more. I don't flinch when the phone rings. And yes, I do think about Ellie, what she's being taught, and what she'll grow up believing is normal. But I also know this. I am an example of someone who has finally had enough. A few days ago, I received another handwritten note from my mother. It was 3 words. We are still family. There is no context, apology, or change, just the same old hook. And for the first time, I felt nothing. There is no rage or despair, just nothing. I threw it away and prepared dinner. So I'm returning here because this place provided me with unexpected insight. Strangers saw me more clearly than my own blood ever could. So, here's my question. Did I do the right thing by cutting them off, decreasing the weight, and saying no with conviction? Was I too chilly, or was I tired of being the only one holding everything together? I don't know. But I know this. For the first time in my life, I am not surviving. I am living. Thank you for reading. Still listening. My grandfather left me a pocket watch worth over $55,000, but my sister stole it and secretly sold it to her boyfriend's father. My grandfather, a superb watchmaker, ran a little shop for 45 years. His most valuable possession was a custom pocket watch that he made himself. It's gold with intricate engravings and has been featured in several horology journals. The watch features a distinctive double-case design with our family crest engraved on the inner case, and the mechanism inside contains significant breakthroughs made by my grandfather over his career. My grandpa always said that the watch would belong to the first grandson who pursued a career in engineering, because he considered engineering as the modern evolution of his art. I studied mechanical engineering, worked hard in college, and even took watch repair lessons in his memory. In my final year of university, I prepared a thesis on the evolution of watchmaking processes, using my grandfather's techniques as a case study. He attended my graduation and told everyone at the celebration lunch that I would carry on his legacy. When my grandfather died 5 years ago, my entire family decided that the watch would be passed down to me in accordance with his wishes. The trouble arose when my sister withdrew the watch from our grandfather's possessions before they could be properly divided. She offered to help clean up his house as I was preparing for the memorial event. When I questioned about the watch later, she claimed her grandfather discreetly informed her that he had changed his mind and wanted her to keep it because she appreciated beautiful things and had an eye for artistry that I allegedly lacked. This made no sense considering what he had said over the years, but I didn't want to stir up unnecessary controversy during this terrible time. Last month, I learned that my sister had sold the watch to her boyfriend's father, an antique watch collector. She did not tell anyone in her family. I recently found out since the boyfriend's father posted his excellent acquisition on a watch collector's website that I frequent. He described getting it from his future daughter-in-law and shared pictures of my grandfather's watch. He provided technical details about the movement that confirmed it was built by my grandfather. When I challenged my sister, she shrugged and said it was just dust in my drawer, but at least someone is using it now. I explained to her that the watch was intended to stay in our family and represent our grandfather's legacy. She continued, "Well, it is done now, perhaps you should have spoken up sooner." I called the buyer and explained the problem, but he refused to return it, claiming he paid a fair price and the transaction was legitimate. He pushed me to work things out with my family and not involve him in our disagreements. I then attempted to barter with my sister about splitting the money she received, but she said she needed it all for a down payment on an apartment with her boyfriend. When I asked her about the watch's familial significance, she sneered and replied, "Oh please, it's just a thing, grandfather is gone and doesn't care what happens to his stuff anymore." After getting nowhere, I consulted with a lawyer, who believes I have a strong case based on documented family understanding of my grandfather's wishes. Several family members have witnessed him express his intentions for the watch several times throughout the years. I've filed a lawsuit against both my sister and the buyer. My sister is telling everyone that I am an expletive who is trying to ruin her life over a watch. She has claimed on social media that I am consumed with material possessions and attempting to impede her future happiness. My parents differ. My father believes I am correct in fighting for my inheritance, whilst my mother says I should give it up to protect family harmony. She keeps saying that your grandfather would not want to see his family split up like this. Several relatives, including my aunt, have messaged to say they remember grandfather's wish vividly and will testify if necessary. AITA for going to court rather than admitting it's gone? Additional information for those who are wondering why I did not push harder at first. I was dealing with my own sadness and did not want to add to the family's stress. I honestly believed my sister would treat the watch with respect, even if she had convinced herself it was hers. Knowing she sold it makes it feel like she sacrificed a piece of our family history and grandfather's heritage for quick cash. The watch has more than just monetary value. It represents the completion of my grandfather's effort and was meant to be passed down through generations. My grandfather spent 3 years designing and building that watch, often working late into the night to perfect each component. He viewed it as his finest. Update 1st February 2025. Thank you to everyone who responded to my initial article. The situation has altered unexpectedly, so I wanted to provide an update. After filing the complaint, I discovered further details regarding what happened. My sister didn't just take the watch off. She convinced our uncle, who was helping to sift grandfather's belongings, that grandfather had changed his mind. Uncle Mark confirmed this when I approached him about perhaps testifying. He apologized profusely, adding that my sister had informed him that Papa had approached her during his final hospital stay and expressed concern that I would not appreciate the watch's beauty and would be more interested in the mechanical aspects. She apparently informed Uncle Mark that grandfather was anxious that I might disassemble the watch to investigate its mechanism or store it rather than properly displaying and enjoying it. Uncle Mark, who understands very nothing about watches, thought this convincing enough to overturn years of hearing his grandfather's genuine preferences. This interaction supposedly happened when I was getting coffee in the hospital cafeteria. Nobody else saw it. Uncle Mark handed over the watch without more questioning since he wanted to respect his grandfather's final wishes. When I asked him why he never addressed me, he explained that he didn't want to hurt my feelings and assumed my sister would keep an eye on the family. I got statements from 3 more family members who confirmed their grandfather's initial desire for the watch to go to his grandson, who studied engineering. My cousin, who visited Papa frequently in his final months, confirmed that he mentioned the watch to me 2 weeks before his death. He even remembers his grandfather giving him a small journal in which he documented the evolution of the watch, explaining that he was keeping it for me to study when he died. After searching over his belongings, my sister noticed that the journal was missing. The litigation is moving forward, but it is costing more than I expected. I've already paid $3,800 in legal expenses, and my lawyer estimates the total would be $112,000 if this goes to trial. The watch is worth roughly $445,000 due to its unique design and my grandfather's minor celebrity in the watchmaking profession. Some collectors believe it might be worth much more because of its history and documented development process. My sister has escalated her campaign against me. She posted photos of the watch to social media with the caption, "Remember that family heirloom my brother is suing over? It looks much better on its new owner than collecting dust in some engineer's drawer." Her lover explained, "Some people can't stand seeing others happy." One of her friends said that I was jealous of her relationship and intended to damage her future. I've blocked most of these people to avoid reading hateful comments, but mutual family members continue to send me screenshots. When confronted at a family breakfast last week, my sister stormed off, alleging that I've always been jealous of her relationship and am seeking to wreck her down payment plans for spite. She said I didn't care about the watch until I found out she had sold it, which is completely incorrect. I asked about it several times after Granddad died. Our mother followed her out, and Dad and I lingered in awkward silence for 20 minutes before he suggested we go get dessert. Later that evening, my father told me that he agrees with my viewpoint but wishes there was a way to resolve this without going to court. He added that my sister has been struggling financially for the past year after losing her work during a corporate downsizing, but she has been too proud to inform the family. This does not justify her decision to sell the watch, but it does provide some background for her financial difficulties. My first court date is scheduled on March 17th. I'll update again after that. Despite the cost and family conflict, I am determined to reclaim my grandfather's legacy. If the watch cannot be returned, I would like to receive recognition that it was illegally removed and sold, as well as some form of reparation that reflects its true monetary and personal value. For those who are wondering why I am wasting money on legal expenses, the answer is that it is not about money. The watch represents my bond with my grandfather and the traditions he wanted to foster in our family. If I back out now, I risk believing that family preferences are worthless when someone decides to take advantage for personal benefit. The amount I am spending may appear disproportionate to those who are solely concerned with money, but some things are worth fighting for regardless of the cost. Update 2nd March 2025. Court proceedings have begun, and things have become messier than I anticipated. The first hearing was held on March 17th, and while no final verdict was reached, several key developments occurred. My uncle testified about how my sister persuaded him to give her the watch, admitting that he now suspects he was duped. He submitted emails shortly after my grandfather's death in which I specifically asked about the watch, contradicting my sister's claim that I had no interest in it. Two of my relatives and my grandfather's old apprentice all testified that they had heard grandfather clearly explain his plans for the watch multiple times over the years. The apprentice, who is now a great watchmaker, explained the piece's technical worth and why grandfather would have wanted it to go to someone who appreciated its technological developments. The buyer, my sister's boyfriend's father, arrived with an attorney, claiming that he purchased the item in good faith and should not be punished for family issues he was unaware of. His lawyer displayed screenshots of text messages between my sister and the buyer negotiating the sale, which revealed something quite unpleasant. My sister told him about the watch's family history and my grandfather's wishes for me, but she stated I didn't want it anymore because I had switched to digital watches. This is completely incorrect. I only wear mechanical watches out of respect for my grandfather's craft, including one he repaired while I was in college. The buyer's attorney said that even if my sister obtained the watch unlawfully, his client was an innocent third party with no reason to challenge her right to sell it. My lawyer said that the texts show he was aware of the potential complications with the sale yet went forward nevertheless. The judge became concerned about this point and requested additional evidence regarding what the buyer knew and when. My sister's testimony was full of inconsistencies. She claimed her grandfather changed his mind on his deathbed, but later revealed that he had expressed qualms about me acquiring the watch for years. When questioned for specific examples or witnesses to these conversations, she was unable to provide any except private conversations. When asked about the journal chronicling the watch's creation, she became defensive, first denying knowledge of it, then claiming it was lost during house cleaning, and finally admitting she may have misplaced it when going through her grandfather's belongings. The most shocking moment came when the financial details were revealed. My sister sold a family heirloom for less than 40% of its evaluated value, with the buyer paying $17,500 instead of $55,000 for the watch. When everything became clear, my sister broke down and confessed that she needed the money immediately, a way to put down a deposit on an apartment she and her boyfriend wanted before someone else bought it. She claimed she looked up watch prices online but was bewildered by different price models and felt she was getting a fair deal. The buyer stated that he was aware that the watch was worth more, but he believed $17,500 was reasonable because my sister needed cash immediately. When asked if he had considered the ethical implications of buying a family heirloom at a large discount from someone clearly in financial need, he stated he would have paid more but did not communicate this information with her. He said that business is business, and everyone makes their own decisions. Legal fees have already reached $7,200. My savings account has suffered substantially, but the judge is sympathetic to my case, particularly after text conversations revealed that my sister misrepresented the situation to the buyer. My lawyer believes that this will considerably help our case. Outside the courthouse, my mother finally broke the silence. Rather than supporting either side, Mom criticized both of us for destroying the family over financial issues. She then admitted that she has been suffering from health issues, which she has kept secret because everyone is too preoccupied with fighting over a blasted watch to notice. She has been attending doctor's appointments alone. This stunning news startled everyone, and my father immediately left with her without speaking to either me or my sister. I attempted to phone both parents later that evening, but received no response. My cousin later told me that Mom had been experiencing troubling symptoms for months before being tested, indicating abnormalities that necessitated further evaluation. She is scheduled for more treatments next week. The fact that she kept this from everyone while we were working on the lawsuit has caused me to reassess my priorities, but I still believe in the concept behind my case. The next court date is planned on April 8th. The judge has encouraged us to reach an agreement before then, indicating that the most equitable way would be for the buyer to return the watch in exchange for a refund for my sister. Because my sister has already spent the majority of the money, this creates an extra problem. My lawyer suggested that I provide the refund myself to facilitate the watch's return, and then pursue payment for my sister over time, essentially buying back what should have been mine in the first place. I started into this wanting justice, but suddenly everything feels more entangled than I could have anticipated. Still, I can't bring myself to give up when we're so far into the process. Additional information in response to comments suggesting that I should prioritize my mother's health before the lawsuit. Of course, she comes first. Since the revelation, I've phoned both of my parents, offered to drive my mother to appointments and assist her in any way I could. Dad has reacted with a fast SMS explaining that they require room. This case is more nuanced than just choosing between family health and possession. Both are happening at the same time, and dropping the litigation now will not magically cure the other issues that have emerged. In reality, without a clear outcome, the watch situation will likely remain stressful indefinitely. Update 3, April 12, 2025. The court case has taken unexpected turns, so I'd like to provide another update. The anticipated April 8 hearing took place, However, there were some surprising developments. 3 days before the hearing, my sister's boyfriend's father, the watch buyer, contacted us through his lawyer to offer a settlement. He promised to return the watch if my sister refunded his money. Because she had spent the majority of it, he proposed a payment plan in which she would repay $500 per month until the debt was paid off. He also requested a written statement confirming that he was unaware of the disputed ownership when he purchased it. Apparently, he is concerned about his reputation in collector circles. This seemed like a reasonable choice, so my lawyer and I agreed on the terms, subject to my sister's approval. My sister did not show up to the hearing. Her lawyer arrived, very concerned, claiming that he couldn't reach her and had tried calling her since the previous evening. The judge was clearly annoyed and gave her 48 hours to appear before considering a default ruling. Her lawyer admitted off the record that he had not received full compensation for his efforts and was unwilling to continue protecting her rights without communication. Later that evening, I received a call from my sister's boyfriend. He also mentioned that my sister had packed some belongings and left their flat 3 days prior after a furious argument about the watch issue. Apparently, he persuaded her to accept the settlement offer, sparking a heated dispute over loyalty and support. He hadn't heard from her since, except for a text saying she needed time to think things through. He sounded genuinely concerned and even apologized for his father's role in the matter, admitting that he had first advocated the acquisition because it appeared to be a good business opportunity. My parents were engaged at this time, filing a missing person report after discovering that no one she knew had seen her in 2 days. My sister's location became more important than the litigation. Dad dispatched family members to explore the locations she visited, while Mom remained at home in case she called. The stress of the incident had clearly impacted Mom's health, as I noticed her hands shaking when I stopped by to check on them yesterday morning. My aunt called to let me know my sister had arrived at her home in a neighboring state. She had allegedly stayed at a motel to clear her head. According to my aunt, my sister cried for the duration of the first day and revealed that she was torn between 2 terrible choices. My aunt persuaded her to call our parents, who drove 4 hours to bring her home. They returned late last night, and Dad texted that they should all relax before discussing anything else. Today, my sister finally contacted me directly. The conversation was not what I had anticipated. She acknowledged lying about her grandfather changing his mind and selling the watch because she and her boyfriend were experiencing financial difficulties as a result of poor Bitcoin investment decisions. They had lost approximately $30,000 due to a hoax, and they were too humiliated to notify anyone. She stated that she would accept the settlement offer and work additional shifts at her job to make the payments. What stood out to me the most was her justification for running away. She stated she couldn't face everyone once her lies were exposed in court, and she felt torn between her boyfriend's desire to pursue the lawsuit and her developing belief that she had made a terrible mistake. She also admitted that seeing her mother's health deteriorate as a result of the family quarrel made her feel tremendously guilty. She spent those days pondering whether to leave town permanently or try to apologize. I told her that I was relieved she was safe and that, while I was still upset by her behavior, I was eager to find a solution. We decided to meet with our lawyers tomorrow to finalize the settlement agreement. She also stated that she believes she still has her grandfather's notepad about the watch somewhere in storage and plans to seek for it this weekend. The judge has approved our settlement arrangement. The watch buyer will return the prize to me next week, and my sister will start making monthly payments to him. I have agreed to drop all outstanding claims, including legal fees. While this means I'll have to cover the significant costs myself, the end of the legal battle is worthwhile at this moment. My mother has non-cancerous yet concerning growths that need to be checked. Dad advised me that her health problem is not necessarily life-threatening, but it does require care. The stress of familial discord has surely harmed her health. I apologized to both of them for not being more aware of what was going on and offered to assist with her care in the future. For those wondering if I feel victorious, this does not feel like a win. Getting the watch back is vital to me, but the cost has gone far beyond merely legal fees. I'm learning that my sister's activities sprang from a place of financial desperation that she was too embarrassed to admit, and although this does not excuse her actions, it does help me understand them better. We've all made mistakes along the way, and now we must decide whether family relationships are worth restoring. I believe they are. Update April 30th, 2025. It's been more than a month since my last update, and I wanted to explain how things have altered since the settlement. The watch was returned to me, as agreed. The handover took place at my lawyer's office, with both my sister and the buyer there. When I eventually handled it again, I saw several fresh little scratches on the casing, as well as a slight wobble in the crown, indicating poor handling. The buyer stated that he had taken it to a jeweler for cleaning, but the person was clearly unfamiliar with antique clocks. He seemed to really apologize for the damage. I took it to a specialized watchmaker, who could restore it to its original condition for $850. My sister has made 2 payments to the buyer so far. To meet her financial obligations, she has taken on a second job working on weekends at a local cafe. The arrangement looks to be working, albeit she claimed that the payments will take nearly 3 years to complete at the current rate. Her boyfriend first left after their fight, but returned 2 weeks later. According to my father, they are still dating but have put off preparations for an engagement or a flat. They've moved into a smaller rental to minimize costs and are gradually rebuilding their finances. My sister also discovered and returned my grandfather's notebook, which detailed the construction of the watch. It was mixed in with old college textbooks in her storage area. The notebook contains detailed designs, technical specifications, and journal entries from his 3 years working on the artwork. We've had 3 family counseling sessions. Progress has been slow and awkward. In the first session, we mostly established ground rules for communication. By the second session, my sister acknowledged that she had harbored resentment toward me from infancy because she believed our grandfather preferred me because of my engineering background. She admitted that stealing the watch was motivated in part by a desire to become the center of the family story. She recalls feeling invisible in comparison to my accomplishments and the wonderful bond I shared with my grandfather. This discovery hit me hard. I never thought about how my relationship with our grandfather would have appeared to her. While it does not justify selling a family heirloom, it did provide some context that I had not previously considered. In the third session, I realized that I probably talked too much about my projects with my grandfather, not thinking how it would have made her feel left out. We've started discussing how to honor various types of familial links rather than comparing them. My mother's health has stabilized. The prescription prescribed by the doctor seemed to be effective, and her most recent test confirmed an improvement. She began joining my father and me for lunch on Sundays, gradually re-establishing our normal family routines. Additional information for those wondering about legal fees. The total came to somewhat more than $99,000. It was a significant financial drain, but I don't regret sticking up for what was right. Mom worked multiple jobs to raise me after my dad passed away, but now my wife is pregnant and has demanded I choose between her and my mom. A little background: my mother and father were both orphans. My father died 2 weeks before I was born. My mother didn't have a support system, so it was just the 2 of us. I never needed anything since my mother worked her entire life to provide me with the life I have now, and she didn't even have time to start over. She completed every small task imaginable to ensure that we didn't miss anything. She went hungry in order to provide for me. I had extremely nice clothes, but she had none. I observed her make sacrifices over and again, always with a smile. To be honest, I've always assumed she was an angel disguised as a human. She only yelled at me once, when I was 16 and observed her getting sick while working. I wanted to assist her in obtaining work, but she became enraged and told me that it was not my responsibility to care for her and that it was up to her to care for me. She wanted me to achieve exceptionally good scores so I could get into the best universities. It's the only way I'll be able to protect myself after she's gone. Even at university, she did not want me to work. I had to concentrate on my schoolwork, but mother wanted me to volunteer so that I could be an adult with hands-on experience. I met my wife there while we were helping. My wife is a nice person, but she was never close to her parents or siblings, and she has admired my mother since she met her. We used to joke that she loved my mother more than she liked me. Deep down, I believe she was hoping for a link between mother and daughter that she did not have with her mother. When I finished my studies, I obtained a job, and we moved in together, but she was uncomfortable with my calling my mother every day. Remember, there were 10 to 15-minute calls, and she ultimately stopped bringing them on. 2 years later, I purchased a home for my mother, as we had never owned one. We moved from apartment to apartment, so it was the smallest sacrifice Mom made for me, and it was non-negotiable. That's where the problem began, first with my wife, then with my girlfriend. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her that my dream had always been to buy my mother a house since I was a child, and that it was what I had to do, but she protested to my mother. My mother had no idea I had bought her a property as a surprise for her birthday. She was uneasy about getting the house because of my wife, but she told me it wasn't necessary because we could use it for ourselves after we married. I was infuriated. I told my mother that the house was hers, that she could do whatever she wanted with it, but that she needed to prioritize herself first. Our love endured, we married and eventually had our own home. Our lives were going well until 2 months ago, when my mother became ill. I wanted her to move in with us so I could care for her, but my wife refused. I then decided to rent an apartment immediately next to our house with my own money so that I could be close to her and go there to care for her, But my wife was not pleased with that idea either. My wife and I don't have any children yet, we both work. I usually go home at 6 p.m., but because my mother is ailing, I go to see her and return about 8 p.m. On weekends, I see her for 1 or 2 hours and spend the rest of my time with my wife. We go on dates. I always join her in her activities, even if she never goes to mine. She told me 2 days ago that she had given it some thought and believes I place too much value on my mother. She informed me that I had to choose between my mother and the life I hope to make with her. The fact is that I never made her feel this way. We both work, but I am the one who cooks and pays someone to do the housekeeping. I make sure to do the dishes she enjoys. She had no idea what I like to eat because I never complained. I run her baths, give her massages and flowers, and I write her poetry, which I hide somewhere in the home for her to discover. We take a trip 1 weekend per month. I earn a lot more money than her. I told her to keep her money for myself, and I will take care of all the expenses, including hers. I constantly make an effort to listen to her and consider her point of view, and I believe I am easygoing because I can adjust my thinking to fit hers, but I understand she wants to completely dominate me, and the only subject on which I do not give her a choice is my relationship with my mother. So I'm going to have a conversation with her and set some firm boundaries. If she doesn't want to, we'll divorce. Update 1. Hello everyone, I keep receiving mails requesting for an update. I wanted to do it sooner but didn't have enough time to complete it properly. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left comments and DMs on my recent article. I tried to respond to everyone but couldn't. Nevertheless, I did read you all. Before addressing my wife, I had time to contemplate, and I decided that no one in my life should ever dictate the relationship I should have with my mother or the amount of time I should devote to her. So I decided to respond to the ultimatum, but first I wanted to know if there was another reason why she handed me the ultimatum. She said, "Nope." I asked her if, aside from what she blamed me for, there was anything she wanted to tell me but couldn't. She said that there was nothing and asked me to get to the point. So I told her that I wanted a divorce. She remained frozen. I believe she was shocked because she was silent. She just stared at me. I tell her everything that was on my mind, including how our beliefs are too different. My mother was ill, and I was going through one of the most difficult times of my life. We administered numerous tests to her. We still have no idea what she is suffering from. We do not know her family's medical history because she was an orphan. It makes me nervous to think that I could suddenly find myself alone in the world. Yes, I am alone in the world because all I needed in these trying times was her support, but if my own wife believes that I should pay less attention to my mother, who is unwell and needs me more than ever, it is time for us to part ways. She still didn't say anything, so I told her I was going to a hotel for the night and we'd talk about how we were going to separate later. I gathered some of my belongings and fled. When I went to see my mother the next day, she realized something was wrong, but I wasn't going to tell her I was leaving my wife because she couldn't handle our relationship, especially because she was so sick. I didn't want to make things worse for her. I never discuss my marriage troubles with my mother, so she is unaware of our problems. To be honest, she adores my wife too much, and my wife behaves as if she were her own mother, so I was not going to tell her what she was thinking behind her back. My mother ends up telling me that my wife did not come by that day. Yes, my wife, who wanted me to limit my contact with my mother, saw her every day, and I never asked her to do anything for her. She calls my mother Mom. When she was sick, she used to go to my mother, and she would take care of her. It used to bother me because I felt like I couldn't take care of her, but she explained that this wasn't the same. A mother's motives are different. I told myself it was her attempt to form a mother-daughter tie that she had never had, and I understood her. She has previously stated that her mother told her that she was not supposed to be born, that she was an accident, that she nearly aborted her and regrets not doing so. Only a monster could say such to her child, so I never said anything when she demanded my mother's attention. After all, I received enough affection to share with whoever desired my mother. After I went home to school, she became a foster mother for children, something she had always done until 2 years ago. I have always adored each of the children with whom I remain in contact and regard to be my siblings. We all went on vacation for a week every year, the kids, my mother, and my wife. I typically take 2 months of vacation, 6 of which I devote to my wife, but the 2 weeks I devote to my mother and children are too much for my wife. Anyway, I am rambling. So, when my mother told me she hadn't gone to see her that day, I hurried back home, frightened. I discovered her in the toilet, dressed and with red eyes, as if she had been crying all along. Seeing her in that state was awful. I helped her, but this proud woman crumbled in front of me, crying profusely. I'm not sure if it was an hour or 2, but she kept crying, then calmed down and cried again. I just remained silent. She eventually told me that, deep down, she never wanted me to be less involved in my mother's life. She was always jealous of our closeness. She was constantly envious of the attention my mother paid to the other children. She understands that it was not sensible, but she couldn't help but strive to be number one in my mother's heart. It was a competition for her, so when I wanted to care for my mother, she didn't want me to be the one to do it. I was furious, but I didn't say anything. I wondered if she was a psychopath or anything. We're talking about a genuinely ill person, and she's obsessed with her darn competition, even if it meant destroying my connection with my mother and putting us in a position where I wanted to divorce her. She told me she was very jealous of me and would have preferred to be in my position. If she had to pick, she would have chosen to be my mother's child over my wife, even though I was the love of her life and the only man she'd ever known. She also informed me that even if the world breaks apart around me, I will stay stoic, that I live as if I don't need anyone, and that I offer everything to others, but I don't know how to let others reach me, and she was never able to do so. Only my mother could. I didn't know what else to say. I was so caught up with the concept of competitiveness that I didn't immediately understand the extent of her comments, but I listened to her to the conclusion. I put her in bed till she fell asleep, and then I went to sleep in another room. In the morning, she was acting like nothing had occurred. She was being herself. She stated, "I don't have to pity." I assured her it was out of love. She remained my wife. She departed for work, and I did the same, but I opted to stay at the hotel for the time being. During that moment, I questioned how I could have made the saying behave so that she would think about it. Deep down, I believe she is correct. It is a protection mechanism I have had since infancy. I've never stayed in one place long enough to establish friends. It was painful every time we had to move from my 5th to my 15th year. I had moved more than 50 times from apartment to apartment, hotel room to hotel room, and I believe I have always lived my relationships in a squat. I never unpacked or settled in because I knew I could be forced out at any time, but I thought I acted differently with my wife, but apparently not. So I reasoned that perhaps we didn't need to go that far. What we needed was therapy rather than divorce. Then, a little more than a week after our conversation, I received a call from the hospital. My wife had been admitted. She reportedly was not feeling well. I went to see her, but she didn't want to see me. I've never seen so much hatred in just 2 eyes. I informed her best friend so she could have system support because she did not want me there. I informed my mother, and she inquired what I had done to my wife to put her in the hospital, and she advised me not to stress a pregnant lady. I asked, "What?" She told me what my wife told her and begged her to keep it a secret so she could tell me when she was ready. I'm not sure what was going through my head. Anger because it was my mother who told me, happiness at being a father for the first time, and complete astonishment at the odd circumstance. I went to tell my wife, but she looked at me angrily and told me she had lost the baby, which was my fault. In an instant, I learned that my wife was pregnant but kept it a secret from me, that I was going to be a father, that we had lost the baby, and that she was accusing me of causing something I had no idea about. She asked me to go, and I did. I always desired children from a young age. My wife preferred to focus on her work. I understood and agreed. I tried to persuade her for years but was unsuccessful. Now that she is pregnant, she doesn't tell me anything. She tells my mother about it, and she claims I caused her miscarriage. She has now stated that she did not tell me anything because she wanted to ensure that I could handle all of the obligations I assigned to myself while also raising a child. I don't understand her, and I've admitted to harboring a strong dislike for her ever since. I can't look at her without feeling angry, and I don't want to hurt her with my words. I take care of her at home, but we do not communicate. I'm not going to stay with her. That's impossible. I began seeing a psychologist, who advised me that patience was my best weapon, that I shouldn't base irreversible decisions on emotions that could be fleeting, and that I should take my time to see if there was anything to salvage. This is where I am. I'm not sure if I will do another update. I took days off to care for my wife and mother, but I'm miserable and want to go away from it all right now. In any event, thank you for sharing your thoughts on your first post, whether they were supportive or critical. Update 2. Hello everyone, it has been a while. I didn't want to post again after my last one, but even though it's been months, I continue to receive support and people wonder where I am in my life. So, I believe I owe you at least one final update because your comments and direct messages were quite helpful to me at a time when I needed them the most. I'm not sure whether it'll be long, but let's go. My wife was obviously pregnant after her miscarriage. I had to care for her because she couldn't do it alone. After what happened, all I could think of was rage and contempt, but as I previously stated, if something is fragile enough to break, you have no choice but to treat it tenderly. I didn't want her to break. I didn't want to abandon her in the most difficult time of her life, so I fulfilled my job as a husband despite everything. Her mental state deteriorated. She believed she was still pregnant and talked to herself. She became crazy one night, mistaking me for her father and believing that I was going to hurt her. I had to call the emergency room and, after an assessment, a psychiatrist urged me to have her admitted. That is what I did. She spent 6 weeks there. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Physicians assume she possibly has delusional condition and was severely mistreated as a child, but that's all they could tell me. She did not want to see anyone, particularly her relatives. She proposed that we connect by letters, so every time I went there, I took her letter and dropped mine the next day. It's crazy. I get the sensation that in 2 months, I got to know her better than I had in the previous 10 years, which reminded me of how nice a person she was despite her imperfections. She used to travel to help build schools, wells, and anything else that could benefit those living in poverty. She did more than just offer money. She also lent a hand. She's the type to help a foreigner who doesn't speak the language catch his train, even if it means missing her own. Honestly, she was like a gold mine, full of resources and kindness. Although we had money, we used to like traveling on public transportation to recall when we were poor and to enjoy life simply because having each other was enough. We would go without money and dare one another to see how far we could reach. It was the best moment of our life. We were so close and in love that we thought nothing could separate us. What's changed since then? We attempted to sort it out in our letters to each other, and we talked about a variety of topics. I will not go into depth. She accepts responsibility for her faults, just like I do. She fully accepts responsibility for the repercussions of her conduct. She apologized for how she treated me and acknowledged that the only conceivable outcome is a divorce. She needs to heal and improve herself. She stated she had a long way to go, which wasn't fair to me. She stated that, given her situation, I would not discuss a divorce with her. She would have to handle it herself. Some fights she must fight alone. Otherwise, she will never be her finest self. She has no idea how long it will take, but if she arrives and I haven't moved on, she'll be pleased to start over with me. I've always believed in repairing broken objects rather than discarding them, but this doesn't apply to humans. You can't fix someone unless they want to be fixed, and I wouldn't have had the strength to fix someone because I'm concentrating all of my remaining energy on attempting to fix myself. If my wife had not made the decision she did, I would have offered divorce. Paradoxically, it was because she took the decision that I saw hope for us. I then proposed a separation rather than a divorce, and if we still want to divorce after a year, we will. If we believe we can be in a healthy partnership, we will reconnect, communicate, and attempt to do things differently. She agreed, stating that was her hope. When she got out of the hospital, she didn't want us to meet because she didn't think she'd be able to stick to her resolutions. For my part, I hadn't yet let go of all the unpleasant emotions that had arisen as a result of the circumstances before her illness, so it was ultimately best for both of us. We decided to continue sending letters to one another, which is fine with me for the time being. She could see my mother. She wrote what my mother told her: despite her terrible mistakes, she will always be a mother figure to her. She did not have to strive for her love since she already had it, and that is something that will never change. She asked whether I was comfortable with her getting in touch with my mom. I told her it was up to them. She didn't need my permission. Nevertheless, she wouldn't be seeing my mother very frequently because I had decided to take my mother to one of the top hospitals in the world, which is located in Europe. About me, I've been in Germany for over a month now. We're from France, and I'm learning to delegate tasks after making a resolution in treatment. I needed therapy, and you were the ones who convinced me. I will always be thankful to you. The therapy sessions were so intense and exhausting that I didn't have the energy to do much after leaving my therapist's room, but it improved over time. I'm now working remotely. I return to France once a week to settle things at work and continue with my treatment sessions because I do not want to change therapists. I managed to devote time solely to myself, which is truly beneficial. One of my foster brothers wanted to travel with us to Germany because he too works remotely. He is a big assistance. In short, I'm getting better. About my mother. This is perhaps the most difficult thing to tackle, and I acknowledge that I don't want to talk about it, but I also believe that talking about it here will prepare me to talk about it later in life. A few years ago, we moved from apartment to apartment and hotel to hotel. This is one of the hardest periods of our lives. Because we were a single mother with a child, the state always provided us with a place to sleep. It wasn't stable because we had to change locations every time, but it was preferable to sleeping outdoors. My mother was and still is a stunningly attractive woman. She happened to receive sexual bids for an apartment right in front of my eyes. I'm not sure what she went through with my father, but she refused to be with anybody else because she believes that death does not end a meaningful relationship. There was an association that used to look after us by always providing us a place to stay the night. One of the guys in charge of finding us someplace to stay asked us to stay in his apartment while they looked for a better place for us because we were staying in an unsanitary motel. My mother didn't want to go, but I persuaded her to go since the prospect of sleeping warm in a good bed was all I could think about. But after we had supper at his house, he began making moves on my mother, who quickly stopped him. He told us it was either that or leave his house, so we left. We returned to the hotel, but our room had already been occupied. There was nothing we could do that day, so we decided to sleep outside. Trigger warning, gang RP, we were startled while sleeping by a gang of men who were attempting to RP my mother. They attacked me so hard that I was frightened to try to help my mother. Several other men who had apparently returned from a party heard the screams and rushed to our relief. The attackers fled. I always maintained that my mother was almost our pet, and I eventually believed it, but my mother was our pet right in front of my eyes. I finally admitted it. My mother had become our pet before my eyes, and I was powerless to stop it. If we had thrown ourselves into each other's arms and cried together that day, things may have been different, but she stood up, took my arm, and informed me that this spot was not safe and that we needed to look for a safer place. We never spoke about that day again. We continued with our lives as if nothing had happened. Things improved over time. She worked hard to ensure my success. She put all of her life's earnings in my project, and I now owe her the firm I founded. How did she endure the hell she'd been through? Since I accepted the fact that she was our pet, all I wanted to do was tell her about it, but it's not about me. She's the one who went through the hardest. I'd like to talk to her about it, but I'm not sure what good can come of it after so many years. That's all. As of today, her condition is improving, and the future appears better than it did a few months before. So, I believe that is all. This will be my final post. To everyone who has supported me during those difficult times, I thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you the best in your lives. May what you have left to live be better than what you have already lived. Am I the asshole for causing my oldest son's girlfriend to dump him by giving relationship advice to my youngest son on his birthday? First, I would like to say this actually happened on my youngest son's birthday, but today is the day my oldest son confronted me, so here is what happened. After the cake and presents, my youngest son and I were chatting. He is a young teenager, and now that my wife and I feel he is old enough and mature enough, we gave him permission to begin dating. He wanted advice on his future relationships. His mom and I almost never fight, and apparently it was noticeable enough that he asked about it. The conversation began by talking about learning to respect your partner, etc. I can't remember everything I said, but here are some highlights. Always be ready and willing to say you're sorry, even when you think you're right. Never dismiss your girlfriend's feelings. They are valid, even if you don't understand them. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If something is bothering you and you don't tell your significant other, you're only hurting yourself. Listen when she is trying to tell you something, no matter how much you don't want to hear it. Put the game controller down and mute the TV whenever she wants your attention. End every conversation with a sign of your affection, and if you won't see her for a few hours, give her a hug, a kiss, or both, every time. Throughout the day, randomly tell her you're thinking about her, you care about her, or you love her, and mean it. If you stop meaning it, figure out why and fix it, or break up. Trust is important, and once you've broken it, you might never fix it again. Many people believe love is the most important thing in a relationship, but it's not. It's respect. If you don't respect your partner, or feel she doesn't respect you, talk about it and fix it, or break up, otherwise you will both be miserable. There were a bunch of other pieces of advice I gave him, but that's the general gist. It wasn't all seriousness, we joked around a bit too. I told him this little bit of advice my dad told me a long time ago. You will know when your girlfriend is completely comfortable around you when she is willing to fart in front of you. Don't marry her until that happens. Sage advice, that is. Now, me and my youngest were sitting at my desk having this talk while he was picking out the video games he wanted to buy with his birthday money. My daughter and my oldest son's girlfriend, Sarah, were on the couch playing video games and listening to us. My daughter occasionally chimed in with her own comments. She's been dating a few years now, and had her own bits of advice to give, though her comments were more about how to act on dates, places they can go, and stuff like that. Sarah hardly spoke at all. In hindsight, that should have been a red flag. She's a talkative extrovert and also a very pleasant and generous young woman. I could see the wheels turning in her head though. A couple of times, she looked pointedly at my oldest son, Mark. He was oblivious, glued to his phone, scrolling through. Well, I didn't know what at the time. Eventually my oldest boy came over and dropped off his gift for his little brother. He and Sarah stuck around long enough for him to have some cake, and then they left. Mark barely said 2 words to Sarah the whole time they were here. It was all, "Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Happy birthday, kiddo?" Nothing to her. At this point I don't know exactly what happened. My daughter managed to get some details from Sarah later that week, after the breakup. Mark came over to yell at me for breaking up his relationship a few days after that. Long story short, Mark wasn't being a good boyfriend. Sarah confronted him with some issues they've been having. She felt like he didn't respect her opinions and feelings, and she dumped him. It's that simple, or so I thought. I love all my children with every bit of my heart, even when they are mad at me, and I admit I fucked up. I am to blame for his breakup. But not because of what I said in front of his girlfriend. I fucked up because I didn't drill the advice I gave my youngest into my oldest boy's head when he was younger. That's what I thought the problem was. He wants me to post this on one of the AITA subs, but I am not going to do that. I admit that I could be a better father, and I can be a real a-hole sometimes, but I'm pretty damn sure that even though I could have read the damn room, that wasn't the real problem. Hopefully my oldest son learns from this. The truth came out when my wife, concerned about Sarah, reached out to her after the breakup. That's when the real bomb dropped. It wasn't just misogynistic podcasts or differing views on housework. It turns out, Mark had been cheating? Not physically, as far as we know, but emotionally. He'd been spending hours online, not just looking at questionable content, but talking to other women, flirting, even sending explicit messages. Sarah found the messages on his phone the night of my youngest son's birthday, after they left. The disrespect went far beyond leaving her out of the conversation at a birthday party. It was a fundamental betrayal. And that's when I lost it. The anger I felt towards Mark was unlike anything I'd experienced before. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a visceral rage. This wasn't just a teenage misunderstanding, it was a deliberate act of cruelty. Suddenly, his insistence on me posting on AITA made sense. He wasn't looking for validation, he was looking for a smokescreen, a way to deflect blame from his own terrible behavior. I confronted him. The shouting match was epic, even by our family's standards. He tried to deny it, then tried to minimize it. "It's just online, Dad. It doesn't mean anything." That's when I told him to get out. Don't come back until you understand what you did wrong, and until you're willing to apologize to Sarah with genuine remorse. Now, I'm not just dealing with a broken-hearted son, I'm dealing with a son who has lost my respect. And I'm left wondering where I went wrong as a father, because clearly, the relationship advice I gave my youngest son wasn't something my oldest son ever absorbed. TLDR. I gave my youngest son relationship advice, causing my oldest son's girlfriend to dump him. Or so I thought. The real reason for the breakup was much worse. My son had been engaging in emotional infidelity online, and now I'm grappling with the betrayal and my own failures as a father. Comments. Comment 1, he wants me to post this. What a strange request. I understand it's for validation, but a son challenging his father by looking for opinions on a forum suggests such a weird dynamic. Comment 2. Immature enough to think the internet would be on his side on this LMAO. It's clearly too soon for him to start dating. Comment 3. I don't think it's too soon to start dating. I think it's time to learn from mistakes made, and take those lessons into the next round of dating. I barely know anyone who always did everything right from the start in dating and relationships. The old romantic they were high school sweethearts and stayed together from that point on storyline has not been attained by anyone in my chosen social circles. People do dumb shit. Relationships end because of it. All we can do is try to learn from it. Comment 4. Since your post makes it seem like he's reading the comments, I'm directing this to the oldest son. Dude, treat women well. Not because their gender gives them any special status, but because they are human, and almost everyone deserves to be treated with human decency. If you are with a partner and you realize you aren't actually invested in the relationship, just be honest and break up instead of hurting them by stringing them along. If your sole reason for a relationship is because you just want sex, there are a lot of ways to get it if you are honest with your partners and a decent human being. Learn from this breakup and become a better partner so it doesn't happen again. And listen to your parents. It sounds like they actually understand what a healthy relationship looks like, and that is far too rare in this world to take for granted. Comment 5. Also for son, that advice your dad was giving is golden. You should expect to be treated that way as well. If your partner doesn't respect your feelings, listen to you when you have something to share, take your side into account, and communicate honestly. Why are you with them? In a good relationship, each party feels like they are getting more than they give. If all the effort is on one side, that isn't a partnership. And almost all of it applies to friendships as well. Up to you on how much physical affection you show. But if you haven't seen your friend in a while, dropping a text with a silly meme goes a long, long way. Update, 9 days later. I've had a few requests for an update, but life and its troubles kept happening each new day since my original post. I made some comments on the original post, but there were just too many to answer everyone and deal with the PMs people sent me. I'll try to answer the many and varied questions in this update. I'd like to clarify that my oldest son is a young adult and no longer lives in my home. He came over long enough to drop off my youngest son's gift, eat some cake, and left with his girlfriend. My daughter and youngest son are still teenagers. My daughter and my oldest son's girlfriend met through my son, but they are still friends even after the breakup. With that said, on with the update. After my oldest son and his girlfriend broke up, and he yelled at me for it, many things have been said, some things I didn't know were revealed, and some secrets were told. I gave my son a couple days to cool off before I spoke with him. My wife tried calling a few times, but he wouldn't answer his phone, so I went over to his apartment. His roommate convinced him to let me in to talk, and we did. We also did some shouting, a bit of yelling, and hugged once as well. This is when I found out that my son got a job offer out of state a few weeks ago. It's part of an apprenticeship through his trade school. He is considering it, and this was one of the reasons for the recent tension between him and his girlfriend. She wanted him to stay here, where her family is, and he wanted her to go with him if he took the apprenticeship. It's almost twice the hourly rate he makes at his current job, and the apprenticeship will pay for some of his time spent in classes, although the cost of living is higher there as well. Some people pointed out that my son is a bit misogynistic, and I initially thought that may be a bit true, and I learned part of that is from some of the examples he has seen in my home. I talked to him about this and discovered that he sees things about my marriage in a way they were never meant to be seen. One thing that my son pointed out to me was this thing my wife and I call my magic coffee cup. You see, when my wife is home, I am not allowed to make my own coffee. My wife has always made my coffee since we first started dating. This isn't something I have ever demanded, it's just the way things have always been. It became a joke between my wife and I when we were dating that my coffee cup must be magic because I've never had to fill it myself. Now, after many years of marriage, it's become something I don't even think about. My wife will pick my empty cup up and say some silly magic words like hocus pocus, or bibbidi bobbidi boo while waving her hands over it, and then she takes it to the kitchen and makes me a fresh cup. Sometimes I will pick up my empty cup and say some magic words and then shake the cup or peek inside and then in a pitiful whiny voice say to my wife, "Honey, my magic cup isn't working again." The few times I have tried to make my own coffee when she is home, she gets up, hip checks me out of the way, and makes it for me. I learned my lesson long ago, but my kids never saw that play out when it first developed. This is not the misogynistic act my oldest son believes it to be. I do not think it is my wife's place to have to slave for me by making my coffee. She does it because she loves doing it, not because she has to. If she told me today that I had to make my coffee from now on, I won't say a peep. I'll kiss my wife and go make my coffee. This has become part of another running joke that we have going. The joke is we each don't let the other do specific things around the house so that the other forgets how to do them so we can never leave each other. Officially, I do all the laundry, and she does all the dishes. In reality, she does the occasional load and I do the dishes every once in a while, but we never admit to doing so. I learned to cook her favorite foods so she forgot how to make them, and she does the same for mine. For example, she can't make eggs over easy anymore, and I've forgotten how to make a good slop, which is sausage and egg noodles and cream of mushroom and topped with fried onions, terrible for you but so good. This, and other little quirks, is part of our love language, and it has taken many years for it to develop. My son mistook the nuanced unspoken, or joked about, parts of our marriage for some sort of male-female traditional marriage role BS. He was seeing the end result of years of small compromises, fights, agreements, and other stuff that lead to the way our marriage works today. Now, while I was having that talk with my oldest boy, my wife and daughter were talking with his ex-girlfriend. We all really like her, and would hate to see them broken up forever. They discovered all the things my son wasn't telling me. From what they learned, my oldest son has been listening to certain podcasters and TikTok influencers that are very misogynistic. My son wanting her to move out of state with him, while she was reluctant to do so, is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to their real problems. When they talked about their futures, they had wildly differing views on what those futures would be like. For example, he got it stuck in his head that women should do the lion's share of the housework. To be fair, doing the dishes seems like it takes a lot more effort than doing laundry, since most of the time is spent waiting for a dryer cycle to finish. But doing the laundry is more than just washing and folding clothes while watching TV or playing video games. It's changing the linens, changing out the towels and robes in the bathrooms, and changing out and cleaning the curtains around the home. None of my kids has ever had to put fresh sheets on their beds, because I do it for them. My wife has done our bed maybe once in the last half dozen years. Laundry, like dishes, are monsters that you battle endlessly. In a good marriage, you and your partner fight those battles side by side, no matter how you split up the workload exactly. Anyway, I hate to see them remain broken up, but my son needs to grow up a bit before that has any hope of happening. I suggested therapy, though I doubt my son will look into it. He's at the age where he thinks he knows everything. He hasn't attained the wisdom to realize that no matter how perfect we think we are, everyone screws up, and sometimes the way we think is very, very wrong. Patrick, I love you, but you need to get your head out of your ass. TL.dr. My oldest boy and his girlfriend look to be going their separate ways for now. Comments. Comment 1. Always love parents who will say how it is and not try to give excuses for their kids' behaviors even if it means hurting their own feelings in the process. TikTok influencers like Andrew Tate push out misogynistic videos all the time that attract teens, and young adults who are underdeveloped emotionally to sell their own propaganda and make money off of. It's best to avoid them and sit down with your son and explain to him why it's bad for his mental health and his future partners. I hope the best for your son as he's still learning lessons such as this one you showed him. You're a great dad. Comment 2. Wondering how often the ex was around OOP and his wife and later got to hear him twisting his parents' healthy relationship into something different. My dad never had to ask for a drink, my mom just refills his cup whenever it's empty. OOP. My daughter and my son's ex are still friends, and she still comes over. Even when they were still together, I saw her more than I did him. She gets along great with my daughter and my wife. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about her still coming around even though they aren't together. I don't want coming over to be awkward for my son, but I'm not going to tell my daughter who she can be friends with. That said, she now knows the background on the magic cup bit that my wife and I do. Yesterday she took my cup and stared at my dead wife in the eyes and said hocus pocus, before running into the kitchen with my cup. My wife chased after her laughing to get my cup back before my son's ex could make me a coffee. Boyfriend's undiagnosed chronic pain made him a freeloader, fine for friends. Suspected a fake, I dumped him. Saw someone's post yesterday about navigating life with a partner who has fibromyalgia and felt inspired to post here. I'm hoping you all can give me some solid advice. I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for a little under 2 years. In the time we've been together, his chronic pain, which isn't connected to any particular known condition as he refuses to go to the doctor, has gotten worse and worse. It's reached a point where he's almost incapable of doing chores or house projects, is usually too exhausted. In pain to make or agree to plans, and getting him to do anything outside of the house together is like pulling teeth. His objections always revolve around his pain and fatigue. I've never suffered from chronic pain, and thank God, so I'm not one to judge or accuse someone of making it up, since the pain itself is invisible and my boyfriend looks perfectly healthy, but he's now been unemployed for about 4 months and I'm starting to question things. I'm starting to feel doubtful for a number of reasons, and the main ones are that A. He never turns down his friends' invitations to hang out, even when the activity is something physically intense like kayaking, or going hiking, or going to a music festival, and B. He is never too tired, in too much pain to have sex. Over time it's almost made it seem like he's conveniently in an unbearable amount of pain when he has to do something he isn't all that interested in, chores, and I'm starting to feel hurt that he just doesn't seem to want to hang out with me outside of what we do lazing around the house. I've never accused him of faking or exaggerating his pain, but I have tried to talk to him about doing more fun stuff together, and it always circles back to his pain or him accusing me of trying to keep him from spending time with his friends, which I'm not trying to do by any means. I've done a ton of research into autoimmune disorders and other conditions that could be causing his problem, always bringing my findings and suggestions to him, but he just doesn't believe a doctor or any traditional medicine will help him. I'm also bothered because when we go to family outings or parties that we're both invited to, it's rare, but it does happen, he will talk anyone who will listen ear off about how bad his chronic pain is and how frustrating it is to not be able to find a solution. The thing is, he's not actually looking for a solution. He just smokes weed every day and calls that good enough while lamenting and complaining that his body is the way that it is. He also refuses to return to work because of his pain. For additional context, he seems to have really extreme muscle spasms, tightness, particularly in his back. I'm happy to support him through hard times, but the fact that he won't work is getting concerning and I feel severely stuck. I'm not interested in supporting him financially on a long-standing basis, but at the moment I partially am by covering some of his expenses. If this post makes me a total asshole for questioning the degree of my boyfriend's chronic pain, so be it. I just need help and answers. So, here are my questions. Where do I go from here? Do you think it's possible that my boyfriend is using his pain as a crutch? Should I put some kind of ultimatum in place that will get him medical care and getting attention? Your advice is appreciated. Comments. Comment 1. Even if he does have chronic illness, he isn't doing anything to get a diagnosis or treatment, and he is willing to push on for things that benefit him and only him. He's also developed a drug addiction he has no plans of curbing. I am chronically ill. I am busting my ass trying to find answers and help because living like this sucks. I do everything in my power to support my partner and care for our home. While sometimes that's not a ton, I always prioritize contributing to my household over kayaking, which even if I could push through to do, would put me down for a week. This man is using and taking advantage of you, disabled or not. He also has dumped this on you without you consenting to be his financial caretaker. You're not married. There is no in sickness and health here. Leave him. Comment 2. This right here? It's one thing if he was busting his butt trying to find a solution, but he's doing nothing. He's unemployed and not searching for a solution to get him back to work. Is he unemployed? What are his plans for contributing to the household? Considering his inability to function, do you see yourself continuing a life with him, and what would that look like? It's a big question. Do you want kids? Do you want to travel? Is he an excellent homemaker? Comment 3. As someone with chronic pain, even if he wasn't lying, I'd leave him. Chronic pain fucking sucks, I've been there. It's been over 13 years. But it kinda just sounds like he's slowly made you into his bangmaid. Either he's faking it so he doesn't have to work or do any chores, or he has no interest in improving his situation, which isn't sustainable if the person isn't going to pursue medical help or disability benefits. Comment 4. Bangmaid that covers his bills no less. Run, original poster? Run. Comment 5. That's what we call a mommy bangmaid update. 3 days later? Thank you to everyone who responded to my post and was so compassionate and kind. It was incredible to hear from so many people who actively battle chronic pain, illness, and those with loved ones who do. I hope to continue deepening my empathy towards anyone who is struggling with an invisible illness. On to my update. Armed with some fresh perspectives, and some fresh frustrations, LOL, I talked to my boyfriend and told him that he needs to see a doctor or I will no longer be able to support him financially and stand by while he remains unemployed and unmotivated to get the help he needs. I also addressed the idea of balancing his energy levels differently so that we're able to share household responsibilities more effectively, spend quality time together, and keep him doing the things he loves with his friends. His response was really bad. He told me that if I'm not willing to step up and clean around the house, something I'm already doing, that there's no use living together and that my efforts to clean are the bare minimum and not good enough for his standards anyway. He was also really mad that I haven't taken initiative to take care of yard projects and car repairs. He sat there and spouted off a whole list of things I'm not noticing and cleaning. And, once again, he was focused on this idea that I don't like his friends, am jealous of them and want him spending less time with them, which isn't true at all. This really stung. He basically brushed over everything I said and focused on my perceived faults. This told me everything I need to know and I told him I was leaving. He was just mad. Not sad or hurt at all. I'm still crying excessively over his whole reaction. I still don't know how real or unreal his chronic pain is, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Thank you again, everyone, for your support and kindness. I'm truly at a loss. Comments. Comment 1. Original poster. I remember your first post. I know you're very sad right now, and you have a right to be. But don't let grief overstay its welcome. You are so much better off and he just lost his bangmaid. Expect him to come crawling back when he realizes you're serious. Don't believe anything he says. This internet stranger is proud of you. You deserve someone who can be your partner regardless of whether they have an illness. That doesn't mean they're critical or cruel. Comment 2. Oh man. The idea of an unemployed, constantly stoned layabout accusing someone else of not stepping up is just mind-boggling. Good on you for not letting him take advantage anymore. Comment 3. Listen to me. You will wait a week or 2 or 4, but he will try to come back to you. You did everything for him. No one else is going to do that. While taking on all the financial burdens? Yeah, he's toast. He was absolutely faking it. You don't need to think twice about it. Update us when he comes crawling back. Or once his parents are done with him. Good for you? I remember this from the other day and I was so upset that you did all that for so long. You're going to be much better off in life and I'm excited for you. Am I the asshole for kicking out my mom's boyfriend after he stayed at my house for 4 years? His new girlfriend has now disrespected me in my own home. When I was 17, my mom came into money. She tried to keep it quiet, but she paid off my dad's debts, bought him a small house, paid off her debts and paid for my sister's college and set up funds for mine. She had a boyfriend at the time and shortly after him and his son who was 7 moved into our new house. Over the next few years Mom bought my sister a house after she graduated college. Her boyfriend lived with us and didn't pay anything but he did work. When I was 21 Mom got diagnosed with cancer. It wasn't good. She sat me and my sister down and went over exactly how much money there was. She intended to give her current house to me and both me and my sister were left with a large sum at the end of it. She asked if I would allow her boyfriend to stay in the house with his son until he got his own place. I agreed. Before she died she told her boyfriend he would need to look for his own place but had time to save more for that journey. For the last 4 years he has continued to reside in the house with his son. I haven't minded because we get along okay. I pay all the bills but he does buy food for him and his kid. He has dated off and on and mostly kept the women out of this house, which I respected him for. Until his current partner. She's been in my house 3 times and at first besides feeling a little uncomfortable I was okay with her. The last time this past weekend was the point where I lost my shit. I was making myself some lunch when she came walking downstairs. She grabbed a plate and went to grab food out of my pan. I asked her what she thought was doing. She started telling me how I should look for somewhere else to live and leeching off my dead mom's past relationship as an adult was pathetic. I hollered for my mom's old boyfriend. He came down and I told him I didn't know what he current thinking but I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes as he mumbled something about my mom promising him the house and he was just being kind, letting me stay. First, that isn't remotely true. Mom pulled him and I together after she asked if he could stay to set expectations. My mom met him shortly before she won the money and told him and us girls that she had no intention of leaving him money. She did set aside a fund for his son for college when he gets there, but he cannot touch it, only his son can. He has lived in this house almost 8 years without paying a dime. He should have plenty of money and if he doesn't that's on him. I told him he had 30 days to leave. I wasn't going to house someone who would lie and disrespect me in my house. He left that night with his son but his ex-wife called to tell me I am cruel and an for her son losing his house. He is here every other week. I really feel like my mom didn't expect him to still be here but my sister said she feels like I am breaking my promise to my mom and that made me feel like maybe I am the Comments. Comment 1, NTA. The critical part here is that your mom asked you to let him stay until he got his own place and to give him time to find one. In that time, instead of looking to move somewhere else, he continued to settle into life in the house, to the point where he even started bringing a new girlfriend along. He moved on but didn't move out. Him lying to her and telling her this was his house tells you everything you need to know about his actual intentions to leave. You kicking him out wasn't abrupt. The clock had run out on your mother's kindness and your obligation to her a long time ago, and he was living there on generously borrowed time. Comment 2. OP's mom probably expected it to be a month or 2 since he's working but has no living expenses and didn't during their relationship, not 4 years. Where the hell is his money going if he can't get his own place? Comment 3. He had at least 4 years to save before OP's mother passed away, plus the 4 years since then. He has only been paying for food and presumably his phone, car insurance, fuel etc. in that time. He should have incredibly healthy savings. Especially as he was living with his sister to save up before that. The mother probably thought that he'd take a month or 2 to grieve, spend a month or 4 looking in earnest, and be out of OP's hair within the year. If he was saving say $1,500 per month while the mother was alive, rent plus utilities and council tax local equivalent on a 2-bed house flat has to be at least that, pretty much everywhere in what sounds like the US, right? That'd be $72,000 before she passed, the same again since then, and whatever he had beforehand. Of course he could afford to move out straight away. Dude should have a good $150,000 minimum sitting in his bank account. That's most definitely screw this. I'm off to a hotel to complain to people who I can tell a very slanted version of the story to. Money. Comment 4. If it happened exactly as you said, you're not the asshole. If she did say he had time to save, but would need to look for his own place, that means she never imagined or wanted him staying for long. So you're breaking no promises. Did she leave him any money or assets? It's totally possible that your mother would be livid if she knew her boyfriend was still living with her son after 4 years. Oop, no, she created a fund for his son for his college, but that was the only money set aside for him or his son. It's a generous amount, enough for 4 years at a high-dollar school. Anything not used for school will be given to him on his 25th birthday, from what I believe she told me. A lawyer and accountant are in charge of those funds, not me or my sister, so I only know what she told us before she died. Love, Nana. Sweetheart, your NTA. First, I am so sorry. I'm 63 years old and lost my mom 2 years ago and my dad 8 years ago. I am not dealing with it well at all. You're the only one who knows if you're telling the truth. It seems very plausible to me. But, if he was already saving money for a house when he met your mom, then lived 4 years with her and another 4 years with you, that man is just a loser. Is there any way your dad could come stay with you the week he moves out? The first thing you need to do is change all of the locks and get yourself some sort of security system. Please don't feel bad for making him leave. It seems to me that your mom was really smart and planned things out very carefully. Being that he had already lived with her for 4 years, I agree with the commenters who said she was probably thinking a month or two. Not years. If your sister makes any more comments, then you can tell her she's welcome to let him live with her. Again, so sorry for your loss. Please make sure you're safe and take care of yourself. Oop. Thank you so much. My mom was the sweetest person, and when I was a teenager I felt like I was a nightmare to her. I am thankful I was much better in my late teens and 2021, so she got to see me mature a little before she passed. I wasn't always the best daughter, but she was always the best mom. Loved, Nana. If he has stayed gone, I'm really hoping that you have changed the locks and gotten a security system. The first time I read what you wrote, I was thinking he walked out that night because he was upset. When I reread it, I realized that you were saying he moved out. Apologies for misunderstanding. Commenter. I ditto this comment. However, I am 53 and my mom passed away last April. That leech has been taking advantage of your family long enough. You can either set the record straight with his ex and girlfriend or close the book on this chapter. But definitely know that you are NTA and your mom's request has been honored. I know that she is proud of you for being as good as you have been to him and his son. Take care, commenter. How did his girlfriend react when she realized he lied? I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Oop. She sat with her arms crossed when he and I talked, but she didn't say anything else. She left with him. Update, 1 day later. I know the other sub is very subjective on updates, so I figured I would post it here. I do want to take a moment to address some things I saw in the comment. There are trusts set up and neither me nor my sister has full access to the money left us. This was done both because my sister and I were in our early 20s when my mom died, and she wanted to make sure we had some stability before we had access, and to protect us from people who may try to take advantage, especially while we were grieving. 2. I have a lawyer. He has already informed me legally in my area what eviction laws are, and my mom's former boyfriend will be served with formal eviction papers just to cover myself even after today. So to the update, my dad came over, decided not to have my boyfriend over since he doesn't know about the money side and I wasn't trying to have the boyfriend out of the situation, this morning, and brought along my cousin. For easier telling, I'm going to call mom's former boyfriend. CC showed up about 10 a.m. my time and talked to my dad, then asked if he could have a couple of minutes alone with me. Dad nodded, so my cousin and him went into the kitchen and C and I sat in the living room. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to go as it had, but I am glad it did. C started with an apology. I don't remember all of the words said, but the basics were: he missed my mom, he has been lonely but not alone thanks to me and his son. He was sorry for what had happened, that he got caught up in lust and let someone else fill his head with ideas, and that he owned up to his mistakes and should have never put up with someone who would disrespect me or my mom's memory. He tried to hand me a cashier's check for $15,000. He said it wasn't much, but he wanted me to know he appreciated me and living with me, and that he wanted to pay back some of what he owed. I refused the check, both in part because I never wanted his money, but I also don't want to give any possible legal leg for him to stand on if this is somehow him trying to stay. I told him the first part and told him to put it towards a house. He told me he is living with his sister but is going to look at houses with a realtor next week. He did say his son is asking about our next hangout date and said both me and my sister are welcome to arrange time with him. After all of that, my dad and cousin helped him get all the stuff out of the house that he owned. He had brought a U-Haul, and he gave me back my house keys. He apologized again and left. Not what I expected. But it went really well, and I feel a lot less like I let my mom down. Comments. Commenter, I'm just being nosy, sure, but how did the woman who thought she's getting you kicked out of your house respond to it all? Oop, no clue. At my house she just seemed smug and bitchy. I didn't ask C about her and honestly don't care. My house is nice, but it's not like it's multi-million dollars or anything. Commenter. Had you said all that stuff in the previous post to him away from his girlfriend? Were you not there when he grabbed her to leave? Just wondering, Because I assumed it was said in front of her and that's why she left so easily instead of trying to fight to make you leave. Oop. All that got said in front of her was that I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house and he could have 30 days to find new housing and she was not welcome back. That was all I said in front of her and she kept a pissy face on but didn't say anything to me and walked out with him. Update, 10 days later? This is probably going to be my last update unless something unexpected happens, but I thought I would just give a quick update on C. So C called me last week and again yesterday. He put an offer on a house and yesterday got accepted. They expected the close date to be early next month, but I am very proud of him. I know everyone expected more drama, and honestly some of the comments had me worried, but it's been really good. He thanked me a lot for letting him have so much time here, offered me some money one more time for his time here which I again declined, but I did offer to help him move in when the time comes. Moving sucks. He put down almost half for a down payment, so he definitely was saving money during his time here, and I'm glad everything that happened was an encouragement for him to get into a home of his own. I talked to his son yesterday after he got out of school. We are going to play laser tag this weekend with my sister and he is excited for the new house too. Update, 1 month later. I didn't expect to come back, but I had a surprise this past weekend and I thought I would share some positives. So first off, C got his house. He closed and moved in this past week. He invited me over on Saturday to see the house and told me he had something for me. So some background on my mom. Mom was an amazing, kind woman. She was also heavyset and very self-conscious. Most of the photos I have of her are Snapchat pictures she would send. She hated pictures of herself and she absolutely refused to pose for a camera. I have made many comments since she passed that I worry I won't remember what she looked like since so many photos I have are either old or filtered. So back to present day, C invited me and my sister over and showed us his new place. He thanked us for being amazing people and then he handed us each a photo album. Guys, he had hundreds of photos of my mom printed off for each of us. He told us he hated that she filtered her photos and he has secretly been taking photos of her their whole relationship because he loved the real her. He had snagged photos of us with her at the zoo, photos of her on vacations, photos of her napping, photos of her during hikes. Both me and my sister were bawling looking through these pictures of mom we never knew we needed. He had put some little card notes for dates of each photo and some descriptions on some. He managed to capture her smiling and laughing, things she would never take a picture of because she didn't like her smile. To me this book is priceless. So that's it, C is amazing and maybe we had one bad moment but it doesn't define him or I. He loved my mom and that matters. We are all going to get together for my mom's birthday in a few months and just celebrate the woman she was. Comments. Comment 1. That's so wonderful and touching. And I love that your mother was so beloved during her life, and now. And so glad that you updated a great resolution to a moment of poor judgment. Comment 2. These photos are a real treasure. It's amazing how much joy can shine through in candid shots like these. I bet they bring back so many fond memories for you and your sister. It's wonderful that C had the thoughtfulness to capture your mom's true essence, her playful side as well as her tender moments. I asked for an open relationship out of boredom. He agreed but warned he'd leave if he fell for someone else. 8 months later, he did. 8 months ago, I, 25 female, asked my partner, 28 male, for an open relationship because I got bored with him. There was nothing particularly wrong, but he just didn't excite me much. He agreed, but he warned me that there was a catch. If I catch feelings for someone else, I'm going to leave you for her. And that's exactly what happened. Now I want him back in my arms. He left me for his new partner, a woman around 28 to 29 years old. What can I do to win the love of my life back? Comments. Comment 1. Engel, that's the ultimate reverse card for this situation. Big ups your XOOP. Really? Comment 2. Yes, really. You played yourself. He didn't excite you, so you asked for an open relationship, and now you want him back when he caught feelings for someone else while in the open relationship that you asked for in the first place. You only have yourself to blame for this one. You should stay single for a while and grow up. Oopie. I don't want to be single, I want to prove to my boyfriend I can be better now. Comment 3. Il semble qu'il vous ait averti clairement qu'il ne voulait pas une relation ouverte et utiliserait l'ouverture de la vôtre comme une chance de rencontrer de nouvelles personnes pour se déplacer avec, et vous l'avez ignoré. There's really no fixing this without a time machine. Comment 4. Well. If it isn't the consequences of your own actions. 3. OP sowing. Ha 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 yes. Fuck yeah. OP reaping. Well this fucking sucks. What the fuck? OP. Why'd he wait 8 months to leave me then? Comment 5. It can take time to develop feelings. Why does time matter? Whether it was 8 days or 8 months, he told you the risks. Update 1 to 3 days later. Probably nobody asked for this, but here's an update. I was kicked out of his house last Sunday, that's 6 days now, and I miss him excruciatingly. I will do anything to get him to return to me, but he looks happy on social media with his new partner that I'm pretty sure he was cheating on me with. Anyway, I tried calling him, no answer. I saw him in public, and he pretended to not even know who I was. He won't acknowledge my existence, so I went to our former place just to talk, and things got hostile. His new girlfriend hates me for some reason. I didn't even know her, and she proceeded to try and attack me, while he tried to split us up and get me out the door. When he had his back turned, she maced me. And now he's trying to file a restraining order on me. What did I do wrong? She attacked me and pepper sprayed me. How can I convince him he's dating a psychopath? Comments. Comment 1, correction, he was dating a psycho lol. Leave that man alone. Learn from your fuck up and do better next time. Oop. Referring to me? Deleted. Duh. Mishi162. You brought this all on yourself. He didn't cheat on you, you asked for an open relationship. This is the result. He dumped you for someone that loves and respects him. The only course of action you have open to you now is to walk away and get therapy. OP, I'm in therapy already, deleted. You need to find a better therapist cause this one's not working. Update 2. This will probably be the last update. The restraining order has been filed, and I am not allowed within 100 feet of my ex Harry and his new girlfriend Jess. I'm planning to move back to my home in Arizona and start over. They're happy, and I just want to find peace with myself. Thanks for everyone's advice and opinions. Yes, I was already in therapy, and I am still in therapy. Please, anyone my age or younger, listen to my advice. TikTok is not cool. Please delete it, it's done me nothing but harm, and other people's stupidity can really poison your minds. I'm living proof. Thank you, take care. Comments. Comment 1. To recap. You wanted an open relationship, he said yes, but told you if he felt a connection with someone else, then he would do the right thing and break off your relationship rather than have an emotional affair. You agreed he felt a connection with someone and realized you're insane. He was upfront with you that he wanted to end things you blame, wanting the open relationship on your ADHD because you were bored. You then try to claim he cheated when you're the one that wanted the open relationship. You went to his house to start a fight when you wouldn't leave their place. She rightfully maced you to make you leave. You call her a psycho even though you're the one that harassed them constantly. You think he was wrong for getting a restraining order against you even though you're the aggressor. You're now blaming TikTok for your actions. Did that sum it all up? Comment 2. This all started because TikTok told you to open your relationship? Honestly, though, I hope you're able to build yourself a solid mental foundation before falling into another relationship. Deleted. She would not have even seen anything on it if she herself was not actively searching for info about open relationships. The idea was already in her mind before evil TikTok sent her all those supposed brainwashing videos on open relationships. I use TikTok and I have never seen one open relationship video pop up on me. I see plenty of makeup, fitness, paranormal, metaphysical, and wedding ideas, which is because the algorithms picked up on my interests. Anyone that is that impressionable in their late 20s, that would use TikTok for their life's most important choices is someone whose maturity is quite stunted and probably should not be on the internet. I hate this, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, still suffering 2 years later. 2 years later, it's been 2 years. I've tried to stay offline and live life, but my ex and his now wife find new ways to live in my head rent-free. I wanted an open relationship, so what? You don't just string me along for 8 months, get some new girl who you met through me, and then marry her. This isn't fair. She's living in my home, with something that should be my husband, and he's been renewing the restraining order ever since it first expired, and I know he's gonna keep doing it because, for reasons beyond my knowledge, the man hates me. FML comments. Comment 1. Was he visibly happy when you wanted to open up the relationship? If he wasn't, you were making plans to date whilst he was making plans for his future and his dignity. Comment 2. Eh bien, je peux vous dire les raisons. You wanted an open relationship, he didn't. He said if you insisted, and he got feelings for someone, he would dump you. He fell in love. You got dumped. You then harassed him and his new girlfriend by showing up at their apartment to talk. You consider her yelling at you to hurry up as inciting a physical fight which ended in your being rightfully maced. You are delusional and a threat. That's why he hates you. That's why he renewed the restraining order. You need serious professional help, and you won't find it on Reddit. My boyfriend deleted my Sims saves from 2017 out of jealousy, smashed the backup USB as I begged him to stop. I broke up with him. Let's just start by saying that I, 24 male, love my girlfriend, Aaliyah, 20 female, very much. She's a super hard-working girl, and she spends a lot of her time on classes trying to get the highest grades possible for applying to nursing school in the near future. When she's not doing that, she's doing chores or cutting down on her ever-growing to-do list. And when she's not doing that, she's spending 2 hours a day playing The Sims. This is where the problem comes in. After all the stuff she does, Aaliyah doesn't have as much time to spend with me as she could. She's a perfectionist too, so when she's doing the more serious stuff like school, she puts in more effort than necessary, which is time-consuming. It really got to me that even knowing this, she'll spend so much time on The Sims. It's something frivolous she's doing when we already only get so little time together. She's also an adult, so essentially playing digital dolls almost every day is kind of something she ought to grow out of by now. I decided to step in and have her cut back on this. I obviously didn't delete the whole game, but I figured deleting the little save files she was working on would deter her from spending so much time on it. That decision backfired tremendously. When she logged onto her game, she thought there was some glitch going on and kept restarting it until I explained to her that I removed the saves. She absolutely flipped out on me, saying she'd been playing in that save file since like 2017, and I had ruined years of game progress. Sims isn't even a goal-oriented game? I told her she was overreacting because she still has the game, and she could just remake her same little characters if it mattered so much, but it doesn't need to, and maybe now she can focus on more adult interests, like loved ones. Basically, she left immediately, saying she was so stupid to leave her gaming laptop at my place, and now she won't answer my calls. I know that this is a total overreaction, but I started to feel a little bad once I realized it may not be as easy to redo her characters as I initially thought. So, AITA for deleting my girlfriend's Sim saves? TL.dr. My girlfriend is obsessed with The Sims, so to deter her from playing it so much, I deleted her save files. She blew up at me. AITA? The next day. Did you really think I wouldn't find this post? Did you really think I wouldn't see how you've been talking about me? I shudder to think what you've said and what you deleted. Why don't you tell them the real story? About how you not only deleted the save files, but also hammered the backup thumb drive so hard there's a dent on your countertop now while I cried for you to stop. Why don't you tell them about how you tag along to my SI group after bio because you don't want me to be out of your sight? Why don't you tell them about how my best friend, who's so-called in love with me, literally lives in another state and only visits once or twice a year? Why don't you tell them about how when my mother was sick a few months ago, you were blowing up my line all day, every day, for attention, knowing I was her primary caregiver 24/7? Why are you telling them you work full-time or that you manage a grocery store when you part-time manage the fast food place inside it? I want you to fucking take this to heart when I say this, but I have genuinely been so much worse off for knowing you. You've destroyed my self-esteem with your constant criticisms of what I enjoy. You've controlled me in every way for as long as I've known you. You don't understand boundaries or when no means no. Your racist fucking family treats me like dog shit, and your friends are equally racist, punk bitch assholes. You ruined something I've spent years of my life growing up with, and I could never bring myself to forgive and forget that, no matter how much love I've poured into you. I hate you for what you did to me and for what you've been doing. I mean that. I'm gonna make this so crystal clear since you didn't understand it the first time. We are through, go fuck yourself. 9 days later, that's it? Sorry for taking a while to tell everyone. I went to a local tech shop a few days ago, and they helped me to recover everything. I hadn't had the chance to update due to final season. I'm typing this on my way to class. But yes, for anyone still wondering, I got everything back. During a family vacation, my husband's family treated me coldly and isolated me. He justified their behavior as family tradition. I plastered on a smile and said, "Perfect. I have my own way too." The next morning, all hell broke loose. They found out what I'd done. In looking back, the signs were always there. The casual digs, the dismissive glances, the way I was always treated as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I ignored them. I loved my husband, Mark. I kept telling myself that if I just kept trying, if I was patient enough, things would change. They didn't. Instead, I ended up on this family vacation in Hilton Head, South Carolina, supposed to be fun and relaxing, but it turned into something else entirely. Something I'll never forget. We'd just arrived at the resort. Picture perfect, you know? White sand, palm trees, the sound of the waves. I was actually excited. I hoped, maybe naively, that this trip would be different. That my in-laws, Richard and Susan, would finally warm up to me. That we'd sit together, laugh, actually bond as a family. I was wrong. That first night, we went to a nice restaurant. The waiter led us to a long table set for our group. Just as I was about to sit next to Mark, Richard piped up. "Oh, there must be some mistake," he said, shaking his head. "She'll need her own table." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" Susan didn't even look up from her menu. "It's just how we do things." I looked at Mark, waiting for him to say something, to tell them how ridiculous this was. That I was his wife, not some random stranger. Instead, he just sighed and shrugged. "It's just their way," he muttered. Their way. So, I sat at my own table. Alone. I should have walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I told myself it was just a weird tradition, a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next morning, I got up early to go to breakfast with my family. I headed down to the hotel restaurant, expecting to see them waiting. They weren't. I texted Mark. No response. I wandered around for nearly half an hour before finding them already sat at a large table, halfway through their meal, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong. As if I didn't exist? I walked up, completely puzzled. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming down?" Richard barely glanced up. "We assumed you'd figure it out." Susan sipped her coffee. "It's just how we do things." I looked at Mark. He was already eating, acting like everything was perfectly normal. That's when it hit me. I wasn't part of their family. I never had been. And Mark. He wasn't on my side. The rest of the trip followed the same depressing pattern. Every meal, I ate alone. Every group activity, they casually forgot to invite me. They went on a private boat cruise, which I learned about from their damn Instagram. They did a formal wine tasting, I only realized when I walked past them in the foyer, all dressed up and heading out the door. I asked Mark about it later. "You could have texted me," I said, trying to keep my voice even. He just groaned again, as if I were the one being difficult. "It's just their way." That was the only answer he ever gave me. By the fourth day, I'd had it. I stopped trying. I stopped asking. They wanted me to be invisible? Fine. But they had no idea what was coming. I had my own way too. That night, while they were out drinking and enjoying their perfect little family vacation, I went back to the hotel room and got to work. I wasn't just sitting at a separate table, I was prepared to remove myself entirely. And they were about to feel it. I pulled up my email, opened the reservation confirmations, and got to work. Because guess what? I had booked everything. The hotel bore my name. The rental car was paid for with my credit card. The dinner reservations were on my account. Susan had been looking forward to her resort spa day for weeks. Oh, yes. I'd booked that too. I canceled everything. One by one. I wiped their precious little vacation off the map. Their rooms? Canceled. Their rental car? Gone. Their fancy dinner at the seaside restaurant? Not happening. I even called the spa to politely advise them that Susan would not be attending. Then, I packed my bags, took the rental car, and left. While they were clinking glasses and toasting to their ideal family dynamic, I was already driving down the highway towards Charleston. I booked myself a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean, finally at peace. Meanwhile, back at Hilton Head, all hell was breaking loose. I woke up in Charleston feeling refreshed for the first time in days. The seaside wind blew through my hotel room as I sipped my coffee and sprawled out in a soft lounge chair, watching the waves roll in. Then, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Mark. I let it ring. Then Susan. Then Mark again. Then Richard. I put my phone on silent and smiled. They'd finally noticed. I plastered on a smile and said, "Perfect. I have my own way too." The next morning, all hell broke loose. They found out what I'd done. In looking back, the signs were always there. The casual digs, the dismissive glances, the way I was always treated as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I ignored them. I loved my husband, Mark. I kept telling myself that if I just kept trying, if I was patient enough, things would change. They didn't. Instead, I ended up on this family vacation in Hilton Head, South Carolina, supposed to be fun and relaxing, but it turned into something else entirely. Something I'll never forget. We'd just arrived at the resort. Picture perfect, you know? White sand, palm trees, the sound of the waves. I was actually excited. I hoped, maybe naively, that this trip would be different. That my in-laws, Richard and Susan, would finally warm up to me. That we'd sit together, laugh, actually bond as a family. I was wrong. That first night, we went to a nice restaurant. The waiter led us to a long table set for our group. Just as I was about to sit next to Mark, Richard piped up. "Oh, there must be some mistake," he said, shaking his head. "She'll need her own table." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" Susan didn't even look up from her menu. "It's just how we do things." I looked at Mark, waiting for him to say something, to tell them how ridiculous this was. That I was his wife, not some random stranger. Instead, he just sighed and shrugged. "It's just their way," he muttered. Their way. So, I sat at my own table. Alone. I should have walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I told myself it was just a weird tradition, a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next morning, I got up early to go to breakfast with my family. I headed down to the hotel restaurant, expecting to see them waiting. They weren't. I texted Mark. No response. I wandered around for nearly half an hour before finding them already sat at a large table, halfway through their meal, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong. As if I didn't exist? I walked up, completely puzzled. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming down?" Richard barely glanced up. "We assumed you'd figure it out." Susan sipped her coffee. "It's just how we do things." I looked at Mark. He was already eating, acting like everything was perfectly normal. That's when it hit me. I wasn't part of their family. I never had been. And Mark. He wasn't on my side. The rest of the trip followed the same depressing pattern. Every meal, I ate alone. Every group activity, they casually forgot to invite me. They went on a private boat cruise, which I learned about from their damn Instagram. They did a formal wine tasting, I only realized when I walked past them in the foyer, all dressed up and heading out the door. I asked Mark about it later. "You could have texted me," I said, trying to keep my voice even. He just groaned again, as if I were the one being difficult. "It's just their way." That was the only answer he ever gave me. By the fourth day, I'd had it. I stopped trying. I stopped asking. They wanted me to be invisible? Fine. But they had no idea what was coming. I had my own way too. That night, while they were out drinking and enjoying their perfect little family vacation, I went back to the hotel room and got to work. I wasn't just sitting at a separate table, I was prepared to remove myself entirely. And they were about to feel it. I pulled up my email, opened the reservation confirmations, and got to work. Because guess what? I had booked everything. The hotel bore my name. The rental car was paid for with my credit card. The dinner reservations were on my account. Susan had been looking forward to her resort spa day for weeks. Oh, yes. I'd booked that too. I canceled everything. One by one. I wiped their precious little vacation off the map. Their rooms? Canceled. Their rental car? Gone. Their fancy dinner at the seaside restaurant? Not happening. I even called the spa to politely advise them that Susan would not be attending. Then, I packed my bags, took the rental car, and left. While they were clinking glasses and toasting to their ideal family dynamic, I was already driving down the highway towards Charleston. I booked myself a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean, finally at peace. Meanwhile, back at Hilton Head, all hell was breaking loose. I woke up in Charleston feeling refreshed for the first time in days. The seaside wind blew through my hotel room as I sipped my coffee and sprawled out in a soft lounge chair, watching the waves roll in. Then, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Mark. I let it ring. Then Susan. Then Mark again. Then Richard. I put my phone on silent and smiled. They'd finally noticed. I stared out at the ocean, at the waves crashing gently against the shore. "No," I said, my voice firm. "I think I've already fixed it." And I hung up. After I hung up on Mark, I sat there staring at my phone, my mind racing. Mark had known. He'd seen all of this before, and he still let me walk right into it. I wasn't just furious anymore, I was done. I poured myself another drink, leaned back in my lounge chair, and tried to enjoy the rest of the evening. But something kept nagging at me. If he'd lied about his ex-wife, what else had he lied about? I decided to do some digging. I opened Facebook and searched for her name, Rachel, Mark's ex-wife. I had never thought to look her up before, but now I needed answers. Her profile was private, but I scrolled through her mutual friends, searching for anyone who might be willing to talk. That's when I spotted her sister's profile, Lauren. And she had public posts. I clicked on one from 2 years ago, shortly after Rachel and Mark had split. Never let a man's family destroy you. Never let them convince you that you're less than you are. My sister deserved better. We all tried to warn her, never again. My stomach lurched. I scrolled further and found an old comment from Sarah, Mark's cousin, the same one who had messaged me. I wish she'd listen to us. At least she's free now. Listen to them. I sat there, my heart pounding. I didn't know what to do. I could message Lauren. I could ask her what really happened, but was I ready to hear it? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then finally, I took a deep breath and typed. Hey, this is going to sound really random, but I think we need to talk. She replied within minutes. Lauren didn't waste time. Lauren, I was wondering when you'd reach out. That one message hit me like a punch to the gut. Me. You know who I am? Lauren. Yeah. We've been waiting for this to happen. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. Me? We? What do you mean? Lauren. Rachel wasn't the first, you know, and she certainly wasn't the last. My breath hitched. Me? What are you saying? Lauren. I'm saying Mark has done this before, more than once. His parents have done this before, more than once. And if you're talking to me right now, I'm guessing you just went through it too. I felt sick. This wasn't just some isolated incident. This was a game to them. A twisted little tradition they played with every woman Mark brought into his life. They never saw his partners as real family, just obstacles to be overcome. And Mark? He let it happen. Every single time. Me? Why didn't anyone tell me? Lauren? We tried. But Mark always makes sure his girlfriends stay isolated. He tells them his family just has quirks or traditions. He makes sure they don't ask too many questions. Did he ever tell you Rachel was the problem? I closed my eyes. He had. He'd painted Rachel as difficult, as someone who never understood his family, who always made drama over small things. But now I knew the truth. Rachel hadn't been dramatic. She'd been trapped. And now so was I. Or at least, I had been until now. I didn't sleep that night. The realization that I had wasted years of my life on this man burned in my chest. But there was something else, too. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Why had Mark called me so many times today? Why was he this desperate? Then, at 6 a.m., I got my answer. A text popped up from an unknown number. Ma'am, this is Officer Daniels with the Hilton Head Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding a missing persons report filed by your husband. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked my phone across the room. A missing persons report? I scrambled to call back, my mind racing. The second the officer answered, I blurted out, I'm fine, I'm not missing. A pause. Then, ma'am, are you saying you left voluntarily? Yes, obviously, I left voluntarily. My husband knows exactly where I am, he's been calling me nonstop. The officer sighed. Your husband reported that you left without explanation and haven't been answering his calls. He said he was concerned for your safety. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. This wasn't concern. This was control. Mark hadn't been worried about me, he had been trying to force me to come back. I took a deep breath. Officer, I am perfectly fine. I am in Charleston. I left Hilton Head by choice. I am not missing, and I do not want my husband contacting me. A pause. Would you like to file a formal request for no further contact? I hesitated, then finally exhaled. Yes, I would. And just like that, I drove the first legal nail into the coffin of my marriage. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed with a new text. This time it was from Susan. Susan? I cannot believe you would humiliate us like this. I laughed out loud. I ignored it. Then, another message. Susan. You made Mark involve the police. Do you have any idea how this looks? Oh, I made Mark involve the police? I rolled my eyes and took another sip of my coffee. Then, the messages kept coming. Susan. This family has done nothing but try to welcome you. Susan. You're being incredibly selfish. Susan. You need to come back and fix this. And finally. Susan. If you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. I froze. This wasn't even subtle. It was a threat. I sat back in my chair, rereading the message over and over. I had thought this was just about control, just about their twisted little family games. But now I realized something much worse. They weren't just trying to humiliate me, they were trying to break me. And if I didn't do something fast, Mark was about to make sure they succeeded. I stared at Susan's text for a long time. If you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. It wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. I could feel it now, the shift. This wasn't just them being cold or dismissive. This was a battle, and I was supposed to roll over and lose. But I wouldn't. Not this time. I cracked my knuckles, took a deep breath, and sent one single message back. Me. Perfect. Let's make things difficult then. Then, I booked a hotel conference room in Charleston and invited everyone. Mark, his parents, and Sarah. Because if they wanted a war, I was going to bring it right to their doorstep. The next morning, I sat in the conference room, waiting. The long wooden table was set with nothing but bottled water and the thick silence of anticipation. I didn't have to wait long. The door slammed open. Mark stormed in first, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might shatter. His parents followed, Susan's heels clicking sharply against the floor, Richard's face already flushed with anger. Sarah came in last, hesitant, her arms crossed. She gave me a slight nod. I had no idea if she was there as a witness, a mediator, or just for the front row seats to the coming implosion. I leaned back in my chair. Glad you could all make it. Mark's voice was tight. What the hell is this? I smiled, slow and deliberate. A conversation. You've been so eager to talk, so let's talk. Richard scoffed, arms crossed over his chest. You think this is funny? No. I said quietly. I think it's pathetic. I think you people play sick little games with the women in your family, and you finally picked the wrong one. Susan's eyes narrowed. You abandoned us? I laughed. I actually laughed. Oh, did I abandon you? That's rich, coming from the people who spent an entire vacation pretending I didn't exist. Mark sighed heavily, gripping the back of a chair. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was it. That was the moment. I slammed my hands down on the table so hard that Susan visibly flinched. I am your wife, my voice resonated in the room, cold and clear. Not a stranger. Not some random outsider. I am your wife, and you let them treat me like nothing. And you, I stabbed a finger at Mark. Knew this wasn't the first time. You knew exactly what was happening, and you let it happen anyway. His face lost all color. Susan cut in quickly, her voice sharp. We were just following tradition, I shot back. It's not tradition, it's control. It's a test, and you fail every woman who walks into this family. Mark shook his head. You're overreacting. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the text from Lauren, and threw it onto the table in front of him. Read it. He hesitated. Read it slowly. Mark reluctantly picked up the phone and scrolled. I watched his face tighten with every word. Then he threw the phone down as if it had burned him. This isn't proof of anything. Richard crossed his arms. You're dredging up old stories. It has nothing to do with us. I turned to Susan. Is that right? Because last night you sent me a message threatening me. You told me if I didn't come back, Mark would make things difficult. Her mouth snapped shut. Sarah let out a low whistle. Damn. Mark whipped his head towards his mother, his eyes hardening. What did you do? Susan stiffened. I was trying to make her understand. Understand what? Mark's voice rose. That you've been playing this game for years? That you did the same thing to Rachel? Richard shifted uncomfortably. Susan shot him a desperate look, but the damage was done. Mark's jaw ticked. Jesus Christ. And just like that, I saw it. The crack. The tiniest fracture in his carefully constructed loyalty to his parents. The moment he realized I hadn't been wrong. That I had never been wrong. Mark turned back to me. For the first time, he actually looked unsure. I stared at him, waiting to see if he would finally say something that mattered. But then he ran a hand through his hair. I can fix this. My stomach dropped. That was his first instinct. Not an apology, not regret, not a goddamn ounce of empathy. Just fixing the optics. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. You really don't get it, do you? Silence. I stood up, adjusting my bag. I'm not coming back, Mark. That jolted him into action. Wait, what? I'm done. His eyes widened. Sarah snorted derisively. Dude, how have you not figured that out by now? Susan's voice turned shrill. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away your marriage over a misunderstanding. I shook my head. No, Susan. You threw it away. You and Richard, with your sick, twisted way of treating people. Mark was just too weak to stop it. Mark reached for my arm, but I stepped back, out of his reach. Wait, let's talk about this. I held up my hand, stopping him. No, Mark. You talk, you make excuses, you let them control you, but I'm done listening. I grabbed my phone and walked to the door. Mark's voice was almost desperate now. Wait! Where are you going? I turned back, staring at him one last time. I'm leaving. Susan scoffed. You can't just leave a marriage. I met her gaze, my expression utterly blank. Watch me. Then, I walked out the door. It took 6 months to finalize the divorce. Mark tried everything, begging, pleading, blaming, even accusing me of overreacting, but I never looked back. Sarah stayed in touch. She told me things imploded after I left. Apparently, Mark finally confronted his parents, and it wasn't pretty. Richard called him weak. Susan cried, saying I had brainwashed him. For the first time, Mark saw them for who they truly were. It didn't change anything for me. I was already gone. I moved back to Charleston permanently. I found a new apartment, reconnected with old friends, and started rebuilding my life. One night, months later, I got a text from an unknown number. Mark. I see it now. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Then, with a deep breath that felt like releasing years of pent-up tension, I deleted it. Because, for the first time in what felt like forever, I was free. I lost my best friend to cancer, then found out her child is my husband's. But I believe my husband is the victim. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute clusterfuck, and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago we threw a large housewarming party as we'd just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town, and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till after 3 a.m., the party was winding down, my husband had passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone raped him, but if he cheated he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually rape him and this was his trauma response. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part, but in the meantime he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. TLDR. Husband maybe has an affair baby, he claims he was raped by my dead best friend. Edit. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend raped him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days, we talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she raped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me? It's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and fucked my husband. Or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave. You're right though, and as of a few minutes ago I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss. But today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong, and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy, to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend raped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps, and we can get our heads on straight. Comments. Comment 1, wow OP that is a mess. Paternity test for sure. The old text the next day sealed it for me. I think your friend took advantage of your husband. Good luck, this is the story of the day for me. Comment 2, I don't know you or your marriage, but I think I would be inclined to believe and support my husband with the few details you've given. Comment 3. His reaction screams trauma response to me. Not being believed is a victim's worst nightmare. It's hard to be rational with these types of events, but could she have slipped him something? Did she have a history of one-night stands? Could they have been extra chummy because you weren't there and they were drinking? I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? Edit. Lawyer up and then paternity test. Can you have a calm and collected conversation with your spouse that you want to believe in him but you're also a mess emotionally and that you need a mediator together? Therapist? But mostly lawyers up now. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Update. I've received a lot of messages asking for an update, so I've decided to finally sit down and write one out. As you can imagine, after the clusterfuck that was thrust upon us, this update isn't likely to answer any of your questions, only present a few more. I want to start by telling you all that I love and trust my husband. My reaction to ask him for space to think, in retrospect, was wrong. But at the time I didn't know what to think. It was a combination of losing my best friend again, and also the fear that I was losing my husband, that sent me spiraling. Again, it was a mistake to ask him to leave, and I did rectify that in the end. Now, for the update. As mentioned in the original post, I did take a leave of absence from work and we spent a long time just being together. Talking, reaffirming our love for one another, and figuring out what to do next. We of course spoke with a lawyer, and my husband was very adamant about not having anything to do with the child, but was willing to offer financial support as needed. So we agreed to do a DNA test immediately to prove paternity, and then go from there. Didn't know you could buy tests on Amazon, but with only a few weeks processing it was the easiest path forward since Alexis lives hours away. To everyone's surprise, Alice's daughter is not my husband. We ended up testing twice, both very definitive. The first test we performed ourselves as mentioned, and another after Alexis refused to believe the first test, and took my husband to court for child support. For a single second this whole thing made me second guess if my husband was raped, that this could have been her way of forcing my husband to admit to an affair. But after talking with Alexis, I don't think that was the plan. Alexis says that Alice told her my husband was the father under strict confidence, demanding that she never, ever tell me or my husband. We were only ever to be told if Alexis died before Alice's daughter was old enough to take care of herself, so that she wouldn't end up in foster care. The only reason Alexis came to us then, instead of keeping that secret, is because Alice's life insurance wasn't being released yet, and she was out of options. She also felt I should know my husband and her daughter had had an affair. This all reaffirms in my mind that Alice did rape my husband, with the expectation of getting pregnant with his child. She obviously had other partners at the time, since one of them fathered her daughter, but no one knows who. It's clear to me that Alice believed it was my husband. I did suggest Alexis upload a sample to Ancestry, see if any matches pop up, but as Alice traveled all over for work, I don't know that anything will ever come of that. In truth, I've washed my hands of the situation. Alice did enough damage, and I don't particularly plan to be around for any more. My husband and I have gone through a lot of counseling, and will likely continue for a while. This whole situation damaged us both, my husband more obviously, and I don't think we'll fully heal for a very long while. To answer a few questions. No, sadly there isn't a hidden diary, or text to explain what the fuck was going on. My husband and I are not getting divorced. He understands why I reacted the way I did, and has been strong when I was weak before. I've spent the past 7 months being strong while he was weak, so we're considering the whole thing even. We are still madly in love and plan to be together for a long time still, more on this. No, we will not be adopting Alice's child. If she had been my husband, we would not have been adopting the child. Ultimately, I thank Reddit for setting me straight. There was a massive outpouring of support and corrective advice. To say I got a slap in the face would be a descriptive but apt way to put it. I needed it then, and I thank you for it. To say that you may have saved my marriage is an understatement. I do, however, have some good news. During my leave of absence, while my husband and I rediscovered what makes us love each other the most, I got pregnant. We're expecting our first baby, a girl, in a little over 3 months, and my husband and I are ecstatic. And no, we will not be naming her after my dead ex-best friend. TLDR. Not my husband's baby, not our problem. No answers, just questions, and oh, I'm having a baby. I walked away when my boyfriend said he wanted kids, then I found out the betrayal went even deeper, involving my own best friend. I don't even know where to begin, you know? It's like, where do you start when your life has become a complete and utter train wreck? Maybe from the beginning, I guess. About a year ago, I met Mark. He was going through it. Separated from his wife, divorce papers flying back and forth, the whole 9 yards. I'm usually super careful about dating guys who are only separated. Too much baggage, too much potential for things to go sideways. But with Mark, it was different. We just clicked. We had this instant connection, this shared sense of humor. I found myself dropping my guard, ignoring all the red flags that were practically waving in my face. In hindsight, I was an idiot, but love makes you blind, right? Right from the start, I made one thing crystal clear. I can't have kids. Medical reasons. Hysterectomy waiting list and all that. I'm child-free, period. It's a non-negotiable. Mark always said it didn't bother him either way. He already had 2 kids from his marriage, and frankly, the relationship with them seemed strained. They didn't really like going to see him, there was always some excuse. At the time, I thought it was just the divorce messing things up. Now I think he just wasn't honest about how bad it was. Fast forward a few months, the divorce is final. Cue the hell spiral, as I call it. I've seen it happen to friends before. The post-divorce meltdown, I warned Mark about it, told him to brace himself. But he was adamant. He was gonna be fine. He'd handle it. He's too good for that. I should have known better. Spoiler alert, he wasn't fine, he was totally spiraling. Drinking too much, sleeping too little, moody as hell. I begged him to go back to therapy. He'd been in therapy before we met, during the separation. That was actually one of the things that made me think he was a decent guy, you know? That he was willing to work on himself. I thought, he's a progressive man. Good. Now, he was all I'm fine, therapy is a scam, you don't understand me. It was like talking to a brick wall. I kept telling him not to bottle things up, to talk to me, to anyone. I even suggested he call up some old friends, but he was all I don't have anyone. It's like, dude, you burned all your bridges before you even met me, I can only do so much. I was urging him to reach out to his old friends, but it was like he didn't have those kinds of deep conversations with anyone besides me, and it felt like a lot of pressure. And then, the bomb dropped. One night, he sent me this voice note. He's been going on about the divorce, his kids hating him, feeling like a failure, the usual pity party. And then, out of nowhere, he says, you know, I think I want to have more kids. More kids? Dude, what the actual fuck? I almost choked. My heart literally stopped for a second. I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. I made it clear from the beginning that kids were not on the table. How could he just say that? Like it didn't matter what I wanted? Did he even realize I don't want kids, or was he thinking I can magically change my mind? He did know, since it was one of the first things I clarified with him. And the worst part? He kept texting me as normal, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just detonated a nuclear bomb in our relationship. I had no idea. I had no freaking clue what to do. How do I even confront this? He practically has no one else to talk to besides me, and I'm the one who can't give him what he wants. Inside my head, the relationship had basically expired, died a slow and painful death. This was it, the end. The next few days were agonizing. I went through the motions, answering Mark's texts, trying to act normal. But inside, I was a mess. On one hand, I felt sorry for him. I knew he was hurting, that he was confused. Part of me wanted to be there for him, to support him through this. But on the other hand, I was furious. How dare he? How dare he completely disregard my feelings, my needs? How dare he make me feel like I wasn't enough? It's like I'm reminding a friend going through a divorce that everything they say is just thoughts, but you never realize until you're directly involved that these thoughts and words have such strong implications. I turned to Reddit, posting an anonymous thread, spilling my guts, and begging for advice. The responses poured in, a mixture of sympathy and tough love. Sounds like you just need to be upfront and honest. Tell him he wants more kids, and you can't give that to him, someone wrote. You've broken up with him in your head, not him breaking up with you. That top comment hit hard. I was just keeping him around because I was terrified of being alone. Another person chimed in. Sounds like you need to break up with him. It is a shame how men tend to end up lonely due to refusing to invest in a social support network, but alas, women can only do so much for men. Break up and let him rely on a therapist to handle this life crisis of his. That comment about social support really resonated with me. I kept encouraging him to reach out to his old friends. The advice was helpful, but it didn't make things any easier. I still had to face Mark. I still had to have the conversation, and I was terrified. What if he tried to say everything I wanted to hear so that I would stay? I couldn't do that to myself. What if this spiral was going to go deeper than I thought? What if these feelings ran so deep it was beyond fixing? Finally, I bit the bullet and asked Mark to meet me. We met at this small coffee shop, the place where we'd had our first date. Looking back, it felt like a lifetime ago. He was late, of course. He looked like hell, his face pale and drawn, the dark circles under his eyes practically purple. Sorry I'm late, he said, slurring his words slightly. Had a rough day. I nodded. I know. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I didn't know where to start. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, Mark, we need to talk. He looked at me, his eyes filled with apprehension. What's wrong? I heard the voice note you sent me, I said. The one where you said you think you want more kids. He didn't say anything, just stared at his coffee. I know you're going through a tough time, I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. I know you're feeling lost. But you have to understand, I can't give you what you want. I can't have children. I know, he said quietly. But, I don't know what to do. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I love you too, I said. But love isn't always enough. We need to be on the same page. And I don't think we are anymore. It was like I was just having thoughts and saying it. So, this is it? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. This is the end? I nodded. I think so. Mark looked at me, his eyes filled with pain. Can't you give me more time? He asked. Just a little more time to figure things out? I shook my head. I'm sorry, Mark. I can't do that. I already gave you a year, Mark. Why not? He pleaded. Why can't you just give me a chance? I wish he asked this the first time we got together. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized something. He didn't get it. He didn't understand what I wanted, what I needed. He just wanted me to stick around until he found some other woman who could give him those kids. The fact that he changed his mind and said he didn't want kids this morning just showed how confused he was. You know I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy, right? I said, my voice sharp. He nodded. Yeah, so? I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. So, you're aware that this essentially means we're over? He frowned. It doesn't have to. We can still see each other until I make up my mind. I almost fell out of my chair. I stared at him, realizing he never actually knew me at all. Anyone who knows me knows I would never put up with this foolishness. I laughed out loud and said, You want me to continue to see you while you decide whether or not you want kids? And then if you do, I should just meekly walk away? Does that sound like that's fair? It sounded so ridiculous even coming out of my mouth. He mumbled, No, but I like being with you and don't want to lose you. He was too invested in what he wanted and never thought of what I wanted. I told him what I'd told a friend, Sort out your relationship with the children you have before making new ones, and gave him a book on that subject I happened to have in my bag. He didn't even look at it. I'm sure his family thought I was the horrible one. I stood up and walked out. I left the coffee shop and the tears started flowing. I was going to miss him so much. He kept texting me afterward, pleading, begging, trying to convince me that he'd made a mistake. But I blocked him. I couldn't do it anymore. The following weeks were a blur of loneliness and regret. I missed Mark terribly. I missed his smile, his touch, the way he made me laugh. I missed the feeling of having someone by my side. I enjoyed his company, and he made me feel like a real woman. I tried to fill the void with work, with friends, with hobbies. But nothing seemed to help. The pain was always there, a dull ache in my chest. I had health conditions, and I always told myself that my burden on Mark may be too much, but Mark told me he liked that I challenged him to get back up and about. Then, one evening, I got a call from Alexis, Alice's mother. I hadn't spoken to her since all the drama with Lily. "I'm sorry to bother you," Alexis said. "But I thought you should know." "Know what?" I asked, my heart sinking. "John, he's back with his ex-wife," Alexis said. I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The divorce with his ex-wife seemed so acrimonious, it's hard to believe that they made up. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No, I'm positive," Alexis said. "I saw them together. They looked very happy." I hung up the phone, and the tears started streaming down my face. I felt like I'd been stabbed in the heart. All those open discussions with Mark just went to waste, so it was all a lie. John never really loved me. He was just using me to fill a void in his life. He went back to his wife the minute he found someone who could give him those kids. It felt like all the therapy he was going to didn't do anything. I felt a wave of anger, pain, and betrayal wash over me. I had trusted him. I had loved him. And he had repaid me with deception and lies. And he left to go back to his horrible kids who I learned had a lot of attitude. But then, something even worse happened. A few weeks later I received a text from an unknown number. "I'm a friend of Alice's," the message read. "I have a secret to tell you." My blood ran cold. I hesitantly replied to the message. How was I supposed to know that this would come after me? The person revealed that Alice had never liked me. She'd always been jealous of me, of my good life, my loving husband, and my successful career. I thought we were best friends. And the most chilling thing of all? Alice had been planning to destroy my life for years. She had used our friendship to get close to John, and she had tried to seduce him. I thought our values aligned with each other, but she wanted to destroy everything. The person said that Alice had succeeded in sleeping with John. And Lily, Alice's daughter, was actually John's child. My world shattered. Everything I had believed, everything I had loved, all of it was a lie. I had been betrayed by my best friend, and by the man I loved more than anything in the world. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. I felt completely alone and lost. I decided to kill myself. I wrote a suicide note, explaining everything that had happened. I apologized to my family and friends for not being strong enough to get through this. I swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills and lay down in bed. I waited for death to come. I woke up in a hospital room. I had been saved. My mother was sitting beside the bed. She was crying, but when she saw me awake, she smiled. "You're awake," she said. "I'm so glad." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. "I know everything," she said. "I know what you've been through." I looked at her, and the tears started flowing again. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me most." I hugged my mother, and I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I had survived, but I knew that my life would never be the same. I had lost too much, and I didn't know if I could ever heal from the scars. I knew I had to try. I had to keep living, for my family and friends, who had always loved and supported me. But I knew this was going to be hard. I would learn to forgive, and I would learn to love myself. I would rebuild my life, from the broken pieces that remained. I didn't know what the future held. But I knew that I would never give up hope. Even if that hope was just a tiny spark in a vast darkness. I would keep living, keep loving, and keep fighting. But there was a lot to rebuild before I could get back to that. But deep down inside, I knew that a part of me had died along with Alice and John. The trust was gone forever, and I don't know what it'll take to rebuild it. I'm a patient with some health conditions, so no matter what, I have to learn to care and rely on myself. And I wasn't sure if that part would ever come back to life. The world is a little too dark for that, I think. I'll always wonder if I could have done something differently, if I could have saved myself, or even saved him. I don't know. I just don't know. And maybe that's the worst part of all. I lost my mom at 10. After 8 years with a cold stepmom, I found out she's my birth mom and the man I call dad isn't my real father. Okay, here we go. Imagine I'm telling you this story over coffee, just letting it all spill out. I swear, sometimes I think my life is a sitcom, a really bad one. I mean, losing my mom when I was only 10, that's already a heavy plot point, right? And then throw in the stepmom, who's basically the antagonist in my personal story arc. It's all just too much. Let me give you some background. Mom passed away when I was 10. Cancer, the classic sob story starter. It still hurts, even 8 years later. It's like a hole in my life that nothing can fill. Dad was a mess, obviously. He's a good guy, just not cut out to be a single parent, especially to a grieving kid. Enter Carol, my stepmom. She came into the picture a couple of years after Mom died. She's nice enough, I guess, civil. We can be in the same room without clawing each other's eyes out, which I guess is progress. But close? Absolutely not. We're about as close as two strangers sharing a bus seat. She's just weird. Like she's trying to compete with my mom. It's the strangest thing. It's not like my mom is even here. It's not like she can come back and defend her title of mom. But Carol acts like it's a competition anyway. She gets all snippy when I talk about mom, or when I wear anything that belonged to her. The worst is my necklace. It's an old thing, just a simple silver chain with a little heart pendant. But it was Mom's. She gave it to me right before she passed. It's the only thing I have that feels like a real, tangible connection to her. So, yeah, I wear it basically every day. It's like a little piece of her is always with me. Carol hates it. She'll make little comments, like, "Are you still wearing that old thing?" Or, "Don't you think it's time you got something a little more modern?" It's like she wants me to take it off, to hide it away, to pretend my mom never existed. And that's what gets me. It's not just about the necklace. It's about the whole thing. It's about her trying to erase my mom, to rewrite my history. And I can't stand it. So, a few nights ago, we were out for dinner. It was the whole crew. Dad, Carol, me, and Carol's parents. Her mom is, well, she's a piece of work. Picture the stereotypical overbearing mother-in-law, and you're pretty close. She's always got something to say, some opinion to offer, some way to make me feel like I'm not good enough. Anyway, we were sitting around the table, making small talk, when Carol's mom noticed my necklace. "Oh, that's a pretty necklace," she said, all sugary sweet. "Where did you get it?" I sighed inwardly. "Here we go." "It was my mom's," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "She gave it to me before she passed. I wear it every day." And then Carol just lost it. "Well, technically I'm your mom now," she said, cutting in with this saccharine smile. "I've done more mothering in the last 8 years than she did in 10. I swear, the whole table went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Even Carol's mom looked shocked, and that woman has seen and said it all. My dad just stared at his plate, like he was trying to become invisible. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the years of simmering resentment finally boiling over. Maybe it was the look on Carol's face, that smug, self-satisfied look that just made me want to scream. Maybe it was the fact that she said it in front of her parents, like she was trying to score points with them. Whatever it was, I snapped. I just laughed, this short, sharp, humorless laugh. "If you think being a mom is about trying to erase the actual one," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm, "then yeah, you've been amazing." Her face. Oh man, I wish I had a picture. It was like she'd been slapped. Her mom gasped, a loud, dramatic gasp that could have shattered glass. My dad just kept staring at his plate, like he was hoping the earth would swallow him whole. He cleared his throat. "That wasn't appropriate, you need to apologize." But I didn't. I said I was tired of her acting like my mom never existed, and I wasn't going to play along anymore. I was finished. The rest of the dinner was a disaster. Nobody said a word. Carol just glared at me, her face a mask of fury. Her parents looked like they wanted to crawl under the table and die. My dad just kept sighing and shaking his head. As soon as we got home, Dad laid into me. He said I was disrespectful, that I had humiliated Carol in front of her family, that I needed to apologize. He said I need to be the bigger person, because she's just trying to connect. Connect? Seriously? To me, that didn't feel like connection. That felt like erasure. It felt like she was trying to replace my mom, To take her place in my life, to pretend she was the only one who ever mattered. I refused to apologize. I said I meant every word. I said I was tired of her trying to rewrite my history. Now my stepmom is barely speaking to me. She gives me the silent treatment which, honestly, is kind of a relief. It's a lot more peaceful around here when she's not talking. But my dad, he's been on my case constantly. He keeps telling me I need to apologize, that I'm hurting Carol's feelings, that I'm making things difficult for him. He acts like I'm the one who started this whole thing, like I'm the one who's being unreasonable. I almost gave in, to be honest. I almost apologized, just to shut him up. But then I thought about my mom, about her memory, about how much it means to me to keep her alive in my heart. And I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't apologize for defending her. But here's the thing, lately, there's been a few things that have been happening that made me question more and more who I was living with. First, there's the little things. My mom's favorite recipes mysteriously disappeared from the recipe box I had stored in the attic. All of them. I'd know my mom's cooking anywhere, and those recipes were all that was left of her cooking, but gone. Then, there are the pictures. I found that a lot of the pictures of mom and dad were no longer on display. If they were, Carol would pop up to replace them. It's like mom never existed in the first place. But that brings me to the biggest problem. My mom's death. It was always a sensitive topic, and I never pressed my dad for details, because he gets sad. But it felt like time to ask a question, so I did. Dad, I said to him, what exactly happened to mom? I want to know the details. I deserve to know. I'm an adult now. I've told you before. She had cancer, and she eventually succumbed to it. It was tragic. End of story. He told me. No, tell me more. I pleaded. When was she diagnosed? What kind of cancer? Did she go to the hospital? My dad suddenly clammed up. He acted very weird. Why do you need to know? It was a long time ago. She got diagnosed a while before you were born, went to the hospital, and got treatment. Before I was born. But mom didn't get sick till I was 10? Did she have it a second time? I pressed on. My dad's face went pale. She didn't get cancer a second time. He told me. But she was sick for years, right? In and out of treatment, right? I asked again. That's when the bombshell dropped. Carol has cancer. Your mom died in a car crash. He told me. My face went white as a ghost, I just blanked out. But if my mom died in a car crash, then there was a huge hole that didn't add up. And it's right when I'm about to confront Carol that something weirder happens. I'm rummaging through one of the cabinets to get some pots and pans when a box falls out. I pick it up and realize that this is my mom's box of belongings. All the mementos and keepsakes that were hidden in here. I open it up and immediately start to tear up. This is one of the last memories I have of my mother. I remember seeing her make this and give it to me. That's when I look down and see something more. There are pictures and letters in there that weren't there before. They were clearly from Carol. I pick them up and read them. And what I read makes me want to vomit. The letters were all addressed to my dad, but they were all about mom. And what they said was absolutely disgusting. Carol had been having an affair with my dad when mom was alive. And she was pregnant? The pictures were of Carol and my dad, laughing and smiling. And in one of them Carol was holding a baby. It couldn't be. Could it? I did the math in my head. Carol came into the picture a couple of years after mom passed away. But if she had a baby when mom was still alive. That's when it hit me. Carol isn't just my stepmom. She's my half-sister. I felt like I was going to pass out. Everything suddenly made sense. The weird vibe, the competition with my mom, the snippy comments, the erasure. It all pointed to one thing. Carol isn't just trying to replace my mom. She's trying to erase her so she can take her place as my dad's number one. But why? What would motivate someone to do something so cruel? That's when I looked down and saw something else in the box. A letter. It was addressed to me. I picked it up and read it. And what I read made my blood run cold. The letter was from my mom. It was written a few weeks before she died. And it revealed a secret that would change everything. My darling, name, the letter began. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And there's something I need to tell you before I go. Something that I've been keeping from you for a long time. Your father, he's not your biological father. I blinked. I read the sentence again. And again. It couldn't be true, it just couldn't be. I know this is a lot to take in, the letter continued. But it's the truth. Your father, the man you've known your whole life, isn't your real dad. Your real dad is... Carol's father. I gasped. It all made sense now. The weird connection I felt to Carol's parents, the way her mom seemed to favor me over Carol. It was all because they knew the truth. They knew that I was their granddaughter. But why didn't my mom ever tell me? I never told you because I was afraid, the letter explained. I was afraid of what would happen if you found out. I was afraid of losing you. I was afraid of hurting your father. He loves you so much, and I didn't want to take that away from him. But now that I'm gone, I can't keep this secret any longer. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know who you really are. I love you more than anything in the world. And I hope that one day, you'll be able to forgive me for keeping this from you. I burst into tears. I couldn't believe it. My whole life had been a lie. The man I thought was my father wasn't my father at all. And my stepmom was actually my half-sister, and her father was my real dad. It was too much to take in. My head was spinning. My heart was breaking. That's when Carol walked into the room. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I didn't say anything. I just held up the letter. Carol took it and read it. And as she read, her face drained of all color. "How did you find this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was in the box," I said, my voice trembling. "The box with all my mom's stuff. I found it. It all makes sense now. You were jealous. You were pregnant with me. And then there's Mom. What did you do?" I just couldn't contain my anger. I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she said, her voice cracking. "What do you mean you didn't mean for any of this to happen?" I screamed. "You had an affair with my dad while my mom was alive. You got pregnant with me. And then you came into my life and tried to erase her. How could you do that? Did you kill my mom?" "It wasn't like that," she protested. I started to walk out. "I'm done, I'm gone." "Wait, don't go. Don't you want to hear my side?" she said and grabbed my arm. I twisted it around and kicked her in the stomach. I pushed her as hard as I could and walked out the door. I have no idea where I'm going, what I'm doing, but I can never go back.